Hail, Ben!
Hail, Tyler.
Hail, hail! I saw your banner on the horizon, and I cameth on my horse to greet you.
What's up, bro?
Whoa, nothing. Oh, you speak the layman tongue?
The common tongue, yeah.
Yeah, we're fucking in Middle Earth, dude.
It's pretty crazy out
I
here.
know. Like you just take a train from like Animal Crossing, which is a connection from Westeros
Yep,
and King's Landing to be specific. You
yep.
nerds. I know Westeros is a continent. But yeah, we're in Middle Earth, man. And I just wanted to visit this place before that final Hobbit movie came out, which
Yeah,
again is probably going to be awesome because Gandalf's in it, and I think Sauron shows up at some point.
totally
Um,
not what happens in the book, but
yeah, not so much, but it's somewhat consistent because a lot of the stuff that's happening during The Hobbit doesn't actually take place during The Hobbit. It took place like hundreds of years before.
oh wow.
But I guess he's trying to mix in a bunch of different stuff that
Okay.
it looks like it's happening all at the same time, but it's probably maybe not 100 years, but maybe like decades
Yeah.
because that castle keep or whatever that Sauron hangs out at in like the second movie or so,
Yep.
like that's an actual thing. Like he was hanging out in that castle before he returned to Mordor,
Mm.
and Gandalf was like, "Who the hell is in that thing?" So he starts a little crew of the Elf Lady and Saruman.
Radagast the Brown. Oh,
Yeah, and
okay.
Radagast. I think Radagast was there too. And they create the White Council to basically keep Sauron where he was, or to basically expel him.
I
But
gotcha.
they fail. They fail.
Failure.
I'm thinking it might be the Battle of the Five Armies that allows Sauron to sneak around and go back to Mordor because everyone's concerned with the Five Armies. Not
Mm.
really sure though. But what are you doing here, dude?
Just cruising. I figured I'd take a quick vacation. It's December now, and
Yeah,
the holidays are coming up,
that is
and
true.
just wanted to, I had a little bit of time off, so I figured, hey, might as well give this place a good exploring. So
Give a good shakedown.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was picking up some pamphlets around these parts, and I don't know. Do you want to do like a top five list real quick since
Y-
we have each other right here?
Yeah, we might as well. I mean, we're on the road, on the path to
Yeah.
one of these locations right
Oh,
now. We'll
we're
see if it
we're on the
happens.
lost road, if you will, and
Mm.
other tales.
But
All
yeah, I
right, not a
have
big fan
five.
of the Legendarium, huh, Ben? You would have gotten that joke.
No, no, no. I doubt anyone will get that joke.
No one listens to this. So, yeah, if you're on vacation, you're on holiday, as the Brits call it. Let's talk about top five Middle Earth holiday stops, and we'll shuffle through these pamphlets and see which ones come out at number one. Ben, do you have a number five place that you'd
I
like to
do.
go to in Middle Earth?
I do, and it is Hobbiton, well, within the
Oh,
Shire.
okay.
This is one that has appeared often in the Peter Jackson movies that we were referencing earlier.
Of course.
The documentaries about this very area on which we're riding around right now. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? You got Bag End,
Yep.
you got the freaking um,
Got
the
Bag End.
yeah, exactly. Bag End is really the only spot that I sort of want to go. What's the name of that bar that they go to?
Oh yeah. Fat Sam's wife's bar. She's
Yeah,
not fat.
sure.
She's big though. She's got some.
CD. Well,
What's her name?
and
Rose.
anyone
Roses.
who listens to
Rosies.
this has now tuned out. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
Bag End, man. You got. I want to go see the home of Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, and you also have like swinging parties for 111th birthdays.
Yeah, yeah, that whole
Fireworks out
area.
the ass.
Yeah, with the fireworks and stuff. That's like my favorite fireworks scene in a movie, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh,
Um,
top five fireworks scenes in movies.
Definitely. And then
Independence
also,
Day.
yeah, you've got it's a very idyllic place. It's very it seems like the small town Midwestern, middle of the USA, but in the Shire, or but in Middle Earth rather.
Yeah,
It's got that sort of
the Shire. You're right.
yeah, like family values and not too much crazy action. It's not like big city life, hustle and bustle. Everybody sort of takes their time, and and just appreciates the land and the views around them, and sort of eats a ton of food and drink tea and whatever else they do. But yeah, it seems
Smoke
like a good
weed.
yeah, smoke weed every day. Seems like a good vacation spot to me. So
Yeah, man, and also you got the whole Joseph Campbell. It's like the place you start at, the starting point.
yes,
It's
yes,
home, man.
yes.
Um, actually,
Hero thousand faces.
I had Hobbiton at my number 5 spot as well, but I actually bumped it down to number 4 for this particular holiday stop, which in the third age may or may not exist. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If you're a fan of, and by fan I mean just read the Silmarillion like I have, there was a little area north of Middle Earth or the Shire called, that was where the elves lived before man took over
Mm.
the world of men. And the elves like had it, they had it right. They built like huge cities. They were like, smelling their own farts or whatever. And this place, Nevrast, which I had to look up because I thought it was called something else, is actually like this. It's this specially protected elven city that's surrounded by mountains. And so the many wars that were taking place between the elves and Morgoth, which is Sauron's teacher, basically.
Oh wow.
There were all these wars going on, and all these elven kingdoms were being destroyed. But this place was safe because it was surrounded by mountains that nobody could get across, so the orcs
Mhm.
and stuff could never attack. It wasn't until I think like Huron or Thurin or one of those guys traveled on the eagles into the elven city like without the king's consent,
Mm.
and he on accident drew in the orcs. The orcs were like, "Hey, where's that eagle going? Oh, look, a secret city." And then I think
Oh,
it fell. Also, I think the earth opened up and the waters may have washed it away. I'm not really sure.
okay.
That's a whole nother thing because eventually the gods of Middle Earth or the gods of that world were like, "Fuck you guys, you're messing things up," and they just split the continent apart. And it got pretty ridiculous, and a lot of the elves left.
Okay.
So we may not
So
be able to visit
yeah,
Nevrost, but the
if that's
ruins
still
might be there.
there,
Yeah,
then that's where you want to go.
we're
Okay.
definitely checking it out. That's my number 5. So
All
if you don't
right.
know what I'm talking about, it's okay. It's really intense. That's why it's in my number 5 spot.
Okay.
But let me just get my number 4 out of the way at Hobbiton.
Do it. Yeah.
Awesome place. Circle doors. Who would have thought that those would have been cool? And yeah, man, Bag End alone. Did we mention that Bag End's there?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you got Bag End.
You got you got lots of that. You've probably got like the Proud Feet places to go. That the other families, the
Yeah. You got some
Baggins.
Brandywines, your
Yeah,
Tooks, your
you took Baggins.
your
Uh,
Gamgees.
yep, they all have their little houses. It's kind of like the Hundred Acre Woods.
Yeah.
If you wanted to simplify it, it's that.
Sure.
There's also, as we'll see in a second, this isn't actually Hobbiton. I'm just looking at the Shire. Okay, Ben, you're number 4.
All right, my number 4 is the a place called the Gates of Morning. I don't know if you know this place, Tyler. It seems pretty obscure to me, but I was looking through a list of Middle Earth locations, and
Uh-huh.
this one apparently appears
You mean
in.
you were riding by some locations in Middle
Right,
Earth?
right. That's exactly what I meant.
There we go.
And apparently this exists in the Silmarillion. It's mentioned in there, but
Gates of
according to early versions of the Legendarium,
Early
the Gates of
virgins?
Morning, or early versions,
There you go. There you go.
the Gates of Morning is a magic portal upon the easternmost confines of Imbar, where the sun issued from each morning after passing through the void. So it's basically a
Uh,
giant portal in which the sun rises, or
yeah,
through which the sun rises every day.
yeah.
It sets, I guess, in a void of sorts, and then is burst every day through the Gates of Morning. And people go to the Hawaiian Islands and Fiji and all these places to take in the wondrous sunrises and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the Gates of Morning would be a pretty awesome place to go if you're looking for that kind of vacation experience, because you can just stand on the edge of the portal and the sun will burst forth inches from your face, as long as you
That
can
sounds
survive
smart.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
it
you
seems
survive it.
seems pretty cool. And even if you can, it seems like it would be worth it.
Yeah.
Worth dying that way just to for the you would go down in some sort of legendarium of your own, perhaps.
Right, as the guy who was inches away from the sun.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, in the
Tell
old
Icarus to shove it.
in the old mythology, there were actually two trees that lighted the world, and then I think Morgoth destroyed both of those trees, and so the light was basically put out, and so there was just a time where everything was just kind of dark, and everyone was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then another goddess, I guess, created the sun and the moon. They're like, "Well, they're not the trees, but here's something to light things," and that's the sun that comes out of that space void thing that you were talking about.
Yeah.
The Gates of Morning, nice. Ben,
So
I wonder if you have the same number three as I.
I might. I'm
Good,
not sure.
good chap, good sir. Why don't you give us your number three? My number four, of
Right.
course, was Hobbiton. We all know that.
Yep. So my
Bag
number
End.
three, you're gonna have to fix. You're gonna have to help me out with the pronunciation on this, Tyler. I think it's
Wow.
Minas Tirith. Is that right?
Minas Tirith, yeah.
Minas Tirith. Okay, yeah.
Now, are we
So
talking about the one in the Elven Kingdoms or the one in Middle Earth?
we're talking about the one in Middle Earth
In the
that,
movies.
yeah, is portrayed in the films, and there's that sort of iconic shot of Gandalf riding up to
Yeah,
the city that is basically constructed in a vertical manner, like on top of each other, built
yeah,
into a mountain face, which just looks awesome.
yeah,
And I have no idea how it's massive. First of all, it's like the size of a mountain itself. And I have no idea how long it would take to travel, say, from the bottom to the top of this place, if it's even feasible in a normal vacation stretch to think that you could visit the entirety of this castle and place. I think this, and I may be wrong about this, Tyler, but was there not a battle portrayed in the Two Towers in which Legolas like rides a shield down a banister and like just kills like 50 people? Is that the
that,
Battle of Helm's Deep?
yeah.
Is Minas Tirith overlooking Helm's Deep? Is Helm's
Now,
the valley that?
Helm's Deep is another place.
Okay,
It's a
all right,
different place altogether.
okay,
It's embedded into a mountain, though. So
oh,
you're
okay.
right. You're right there.
That's where I got
Minas
confused. But
Tirith is the one with the guy who's like crazy and he sets himself on fire and runs
oh
off
yes,
the end of
yes,
the thing.
yeah. And he
So
makes like Mary sing to him or
yeah,
something. In one
sing
of
me
the
a song, Hobbit.
Yeah, but that guy, yeah, that place, that castle is freaking awesome. So I
Yeah, it
definitely
is.
would like to witness that with my own eyes in the Middle Earth realm.
I think it's also where uh, Aragorn is crowned king. I think that's
Oh,
where the
his
king
yeah,
lives.
his coronation at the very end of
Yeah,
King. Yeah,
I think that's Minas Tirith.
yes, I believe you're right.
Because Osgiliath is the one that's like it's just shit to pieces. The orcs and the dragons and
Yes,
the Nazgul.
I almost chose that. I almost chose that just because Osgiliath is a cool word,
Yeah, it is.
but then I saw that yeah, it's basically just been burned to a crisp. So I was like, well, yeah, we'll go with the giant pristine white castle built into the rock face. So
Now I'm since we're both here in Middle Earth, Ben, I'm wondering what time period we are traveling in because
I
again,
really have no idea.
transcending fictional worlds is hard enough to do. I'm trying to narrow down what time period we're at. Like,
Mm.
is Sauron gonna come and gut us? Is Morgoth gonna like burn us in his fires of the underworld or something? I don't know where that guy lives.
Is
Um,
Smeagol still a hobbit?
yeah, Smeagol is still a river folk. We don't know. We don't know. Although I really wished J.R.R. was still alive to write that sequel to Lord of the Rings that there was just like one page of.
Oh, really? That
Um,
exists?
yeah, man. Aragorn had a son and something happened, but he's dead.
Oh.
So we'll never know. And plus, Christopher Tolkien's a total old man himself, so he might not be able to do it either. Oh well, rest in peace. Not Christopher J.R.R.
Yeah.
My number three is the Prancing Pony,
Oh, that's what I was looking
the
for.
hotel that's right on the edge of the Shire.
Yeah.
It's where our friends, the Hobbits and Aragorn, stay. They're supposed to meet Gandalf here, but Gandalf doesn't show up on time, that fool, because he's probably trapped on the tower at Isengard,
Mhm.
and like the little moth has to save him and stuff.
Nothing but a moth to keep.
Uh, And so they stay there, and Aragorn's like, smoking in the shadows, and Frodo's using the ring because he's fucking dumb.
Yep.
And Aragorn's like, oh yeah, that's a real cool parlor trick, making yourself disappear. And he advises them to sleep in his room because maybe Aragorn has like a small person thing. But it's good that they did because the Nazgul come after them and stab their pillows
Oh
in
yes.
that pivotal, very, very scary scene. I even remember reading the book before the movie came out, like 2 years before the movie came out, and imagining that scene. I was like, wow, that was really freaky. And then the movie came out and it was actually freaky. So
Nice.
yeah, the Prancing Pony looks like a fun place. It's right on the edge of the Shire, so you might see some dwarves, you might see some hobbits. I don't know if you'd see any elves, maybe in the forests surrounding the Prancing Pony and the little town of Bree, which is where it's located.
Hmm.
I don't know, it's just kind of cool to hang out there. I guess if you like, it's cooler if you live there and weird people walk into the town, like you're just waiting for people to show up.
Yeah.
It's not as cool, I guess, if you can leave whenever you want and go to the other landmarks.
Yeah,
But
but it seems like a nice place to stop, get a drink, just sort of take in the surroundings.
yeah, I'd live there. I'd live there.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't live there if I had the choice to live in my top two. But Prancing Pony, I liked it a lot, so that's my number three.
Okay.
Ben, the wind chills to the bone, my friend. We must be
Yes.
hurrying this conversation along and find a good housing for the night. Your number two.
Yes. My number two is a place where the wind would not chill us to the bone because there is no wind, and that would be Menelvagor, which is a constellation in
Oh,
overlooking Middle Earth.
is this where the last Cimmeril is?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
see anything about that in the very, very small Wikipedia entry that I'm looking at right now, but it
Slash
could be.
ancient tome that you happen to be carrying with you.
Right, that's exactly right. But yeah, Menelvagor, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, also known as the Swordsman of the Sky, is basically the equivalent of Orion in our universe. But it's a constellation, and I figured that it might be interesting to travel to a constellation that looks down over Middle Earth because I've always been a little bit confused as to how Middle Earth relates to Earth itself, and our Earth, the traditional one, and apparently, um, according to my travels and the
Yes,
pamphlets and
of
stuff that
course, of
I've
course.
found, Ambar or Imbar is what is the name of Earth, I guess, in that universe, and it's the solid land mass of the world, and Middle Earth is one continent on this
Right.
this land, I
Globe,
guess.
planet.
Right. So I just figured, it might be good to get a star's eye view of this whole thing and just sort of
Ew.
get my bearings on a on a galactical level. So
Yeah, one of the stars in Menelvagor is Borgil, which is actually a red star, much like Betelgeuse is a red star in our planet. So, are they the same?
I don't know.
Question mark? I always like that about Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. When you are riding your boat at night, you can see constellations that are exactly like our constellations,
Hmm.
and they change just like ours change.
So
And
could you pinpoint the exact location of where you are? You must be able to, right? That's how they used to be
uh,
able to do it back in the day. You
well,
just
yeah,
grab
they
like
knew
a
what
sextant
direction to go
and
in. Yeah,
go, yeah, go for it.
I guess if the game allowed me to, I could just travel on the ocean for an exorbitant amount of time. But I think it eventually says, "Hey, you've gone too far. Let's go back."
You
It,
run
that,
into like a Truman-esque
yeah,
wall.
it doesn't let you go like to the next continent or something.
Yeah.
But that's pretty sweet. So you're hanging out not only by the space void that releases the damn sun, but
Yeah.
you're also chilling in a constellation.
Yeah, I figured,
I
gotta
just
take.
figure you're just hopping from star to star in the constellation, like humming a little tune,
Yeah.
much like Bombadil.
Yeah. Oh man, Tom Bombadil. He's so high that would make sense.
Mmm, weed. My number 2 is the Grey Havens, which I believe is the place where you set out from Middle Earth to the Undying Lands.
Oh, okay.
And if you remember from the end of Return of the King, you see Frodo, you see Gandalf, you see Galadriel, you see Bilbo. All these ring bearers go to basically heaven, elven heaven.
Yes.
Mostly only the elves can go, but sometimes they'll accept others, like the ring bearers. Men don't get to go. There was only, I think, one man who's gone, and he couldn't return. Much like in the mythology for Ireland, you couldn't return from Tir na Nog.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where the gods live. That's where all things are good and awesome and undying, so you don't ever die out there. Yeah, the Grey Havens, though, it's not the Undying Lands. It's just the place where you set off. But I would like to just live there. It's right on the coast. You get to see the ocean. I'm sure if you remember, it's kind of like a curved little bay, and so you could just live right there and just watch the sunset from its void or whatever.
Yeah, you got
over to the ocean.
All sorts of boats and stuff cruising around in there.
Yeah, and you get to see the elves leave. So you're like, oh man, you're really awesome. You got elves, and then they can tell you stories of how they've lived with the gods and whatever, and then maybe you can bang one out with a really hot elf or something and have like elf kids. I don't know. It's just a really cool place to be.
Bang one out.
So the Grey Havens, I believe, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I think it has an official name, and it's also on the Gulf of Loon. The Gulf of Loon is what it's called. That's the Gulf.
Seems very moonish, very lunar.
Yes, it's the end of the elves' stay here. It's kind of the night of the elves.
Sweet.
Yeah, man, I'd live there. If you look at a picture of it on one wiki to rule them all. Ben, number 1.
All right, my number 1 is Rivendell.
Rivendell for number 1, me too.
Awesome. Yeah, so I mean,
I would bang out so many elves in this place. Like the sheets are all white.
Yeah, everything about this place is like completely picturesque. Like there's freaking waterfalls everywhere, and it's like very insulated and almost like that sort of hidden city you were talking about before. It's like very strategically placed where you would know if nobody's going to sneak up on you in Rivendell. You know when they're coming. Plus you've got the entire, all of the supplies and the outposts and stuff from the elves, which has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So I think you could pretty much hole up there and be fine forever. I think, I don't know how long Elrond ruled that place, but I'm guessing it was multiple hundreds of years.
Yeah,
so
thousands of years. He's really old.
So you can just you can.
I think he was born. I think he was born in the First Age, and he took over after his dad died, and he had like a brother, I think, who went somewhere else. I can't remember. But yeah, he's lived through a lot. So if you just get to sit down and talk to him, he'll tell you what's up.
Yeah.
He isn't one of the elves that came over from the Undying Lands. He was born of those elves, I guess. Okay. But he's one of the last to leave. I think he leaves with all those guys too. Nice. Like Gandalf and Bilbo and Frodo. But yeah, you got the lamb bread, the lambus bread that just gives you like the strength of 20 men. You have, again, the hot elves. I know what I'm talking about, with the pointy ears.
Yeah, it's a big draw.
That's a huge draw. You probably have some kind of like magic parlor tricks going on.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure there's a library there that you can just
kick-ass bowling alleys and theaters.
Oh, Elven Bowling. Have you ever played that? It's like 3-dimensional.
I have not, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, man. The architecture is really nice. Picturesque. Again, basically a Thomas Kincaid painting every time you turn a corner.
For sure. And you can go in and see the broken remains of the sword that, what's his name? Isildur or whatever. Yeah, he sliced off freaking the Sauron's finger.
So. Yeah, man, with the Ring of Power attached.
Yeah.
Poor Isildur. If only he hadn't fallen to man's weakness for power.
Indeed.
He would have destroyed that ring and ended Sauron forever.
But yeah, maybe, that would be a good reminder so you or I or the royal you doesn't
Yeah.
get too caught up in the uh you can go and look at all the murals all over the walls that tell these stories, and maybe you can learn a lesson from history and not repeat it yourself, and then you can just say, you know what, I'm not about getting crazy power hungry. I'm just gonna go bang one out with one of these elves over
Yeah.
here.
That's all. That's all there is in life, man. Just
Yeah.
banging it out with elves. Ben, the chilleth of the winter has struck me. Dare I say, we travel to Rivendell forthwith,
Yes.
and maybe take in some lambus,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Stop
perhaps
the prancing pony and grab a pint before we
yeah.
head to bed.
So just to end this Middle Earthly episode of the Fivecast,
Since we always have
we
recording equipment on us at
yeah,
at all
at a
times.
moment's notice, I could need to record.
Yes.
But you might be having some trouble accessing the Fivecast. I'm not sure if I'm speaking to you or to others, but we have a few problems with our iTunes. But don't worry, you can find us elsewhere on Tumblr. You can find us on Twitter, obviously. You can find us on possibly, if you download the Android app Podcast Addict, you can find the feed burner. I don't know, some RSS feed. Just do it. I don't know. Figure out your problems. But iTunes is kind of mad at us for some reason, as well as some other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should be able to find us if you follow us on Twitter at the Fivecast.
Yes.
Ben, where can the Fivecasters find you?
Right now you can just find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Ben Pears, BenPears.
There you go. And our episode opens and closes with probably some Howard Shore music.
Oh yeah.
Usually it's Michael Stanley with "He Can't Love You Like I Love You." All their music can be found on Amazon and iTunes. I'll start giving business back to iTunes once they fix our feed. So why don't you download that music from Amazon?
Yep.
All rights are reserved. Ben, let us ride off into that sunset, which is going into some kind of void gate thing.
Onward.
Well, I think this is Tolkien month, man, celebrating the last Hobbit film. So next week we're gonna have another J.R.R. Tolkien Legendarium themed episode. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. We'll talk about something though. And we'll see you then. Bye, Ben.
Right.
Oh, I don't need to say bye to you. I'm riding along.
All right, let's go.
Let's ride! Cheers, Ben.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers, clank.
Clink.
Some dark brew here at the Prancing Pony.
Oh yes.
Right on the edge of the Shire. If you heard us talking last time, we were talking about top 5 places in Middle Earth, and so of course we had to stop by for a nice little lager.
Yep.
They call this the sparkling Rosie, I guess, invented by Rosie Gamgee of Hobbiton. It has a couple of strawberries at the bottom. It's very fruity, but it's got a wheat, like kind of a bitter wheat taste to it. I just invented a new drink. There you go.
All right.
But this week, Ben, I wanted to get down to some storytelling.
This is Tolkien month after all.
This is Tolkien month. We're talking about the Legendarium, the great Legendarium that Tolkien left behind. And we're talking top 5 lists all month. So if you're geared up, welcome. If you just joined us, this is going to get pretty deep. And
deep.
Yeah,
maybe.
you may not enjoy the very, very specific episodes that we're doing, but we'll be back in January for top 5 comics of the 1950s or whatever you came here for.
The stuff that everyone really wants to listen to.
But I figured this week we could tell the tale of many things, and usually stories are built around great battles. And so, Ben, you suggested this one. I don't know if Warhammer signed off on this as well. Mm-hmm. But top five weapons. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a warmonger. I don't wish we were at war. But swords and blades and bows and staffs and spears, Ben, they tell a story.
Yes.
Sometimes you look at it and you go, oh, I remember when that sword was broken, or I remember when that spear was bloodied.
Right.
And then you have like a 13-hour folk tale that's told at the Lost Cottage or something.
Yes.
So Ben, do you have a list that possibly has a couple of swords or tools, I guess,
Right.
right in front of you?
I do. Yeah.
It's not that loud in here. I guess we could do a top five list discussion. So Ben,
Yep. Let's go.
let's not hamper any longer. You're number five.
So my number five is the infamous mithril coat. That is,
Ooh.
it's not necessarily an offensive weapon, but I would
No, it's
call it
definitely a tool.
defensive weapon or a tool, right?
Tool.
It would fall into that specific category. But
Yes, absolutely.
this is, I think, the most famous of the
Mithril coats.
for sure. Yeah, it's the one that is. It was actually, from my understanding, forged from the treasure of Smaug and given to Bilbo himself. And then Bilbo, of course, passed it on down to young Frodo Baggins, who was stabbed and shot at multiple times while wearing this thing. It basically saved his life on at least 3 separate occasions.
Yeah, I think a cave troll almost owned his shit if he, unless he had the, but he didn't own his shit because of the mithril vest.
Right. I was
very, very, very expensive piece of clothing. I think
Yes.
Gimli gives the impression that you could buy a kingdom with it or something like that.
Yeah, I think Gandalf says it's the value of it is greater than the value of the entire Shire and everything in it.
Wow.
So that's
Guess who would sell that right quick? This guy.
Yeah, but I thought, it might be good to kick off the list with something that's a little not quite as ostentatious as a lot of the blades with names and things of that sort. Right. I'm sure we're going to be getting into in a little bit, but something that is an important part of the Lord of the Rings saga, and something that is passed down from the Hobbit story into the actual Lord of the Rings, which I always appreciate that sort of longevity in a mythical object. So.
It's a great pick, Ben. I was trying to find other like non-offensive items, and by offensive I don't mean like I'm cussing.
Right.
I'm cutting, I guess. Yeah, so that's a great pick. I was trying to not focus on too many of the war stuff, but I'm glad you picked a defensive one. That's a great. Do you know in your research what happened to the vest? Does Frodo continue to use it?
The last thing that I saw about it is something that I didn't remember from the Return of the King, which is probably the movie that I've seen the least.
It's a great film. There's a ghost army in it.
Right.
There's elephants.
I remember the main things. I've seen it.
Sam and Frodo almost kiss.
I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times all the way through, but not nearly as much as I've seen Fellowship, for example. But it says, according to Wikipedia, at the end of the story, the Lord of the Rings saga, Frodo wore the shirt at the celebrations and on the trip home. The shirt saved his life one more time when Saruman, who had taken over the Shire, tried to stab Frodo after Frodo had spared his life. And I don't remember that happening at all.
That wasn't in the movie. No, that was at the end of the book.
Okay.
The movie does not go into great detail about how Merry and Pippin and Sam and Frodo go back to the Shire, and because Merry and Pippin had both drank from this river, they had actually grown to be like a lot larger than the other hobbits back in the Shire. So they almost looked like men, and they came in, and I guess a band of thieves had taken over the Shire, I guess run by Saruman, and they just owned Saruman's ass in that. And they took back the Shire.
Okay, yeah, I was not aware of that aspect. I tried to read Lord of the Rings trilogy one time. I got through the Fellowship book, and then I got like halfway into Two Towers, and I just couldn't read it anymore.
That's a muddy mess, Two Towers.
Yeah,
because it is nothing but like battles. Helm's Deep. I think Sam and Frodo and Smeagol walk around for a lot.
There are too many dwarves. I couldn't, or not dwarves, but just characters that I tried to read them before the movies came out, so I didn't know all the characters as well. I couldn't visualize the differences between all of them. It was a tough read back when I was, I don't know, 14 or whatever.
Also, it's broken up into 2 parts. So the first part's, I think, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and then the second part is Sam and Frodo. So if you I mean, if intertwining the two storylines might have been easy for some, but yeah, separating them. Like if you really liked Aragorn but didn't like Frodo, or vice versa, yeah, you might have gotten lost.
Yeah.
My number 5 is, speaking of Aragorn, the sword that Aragorn reforged, but when it was broken, it belonged to Isildur's father, Elendil. I don't know how to say these names. And this is the sword called Narsil. Narsil. And in its broken form, it cut the finger of Sauron to remove the one ring. And Isildur, I guess, just gathered up the broken pieces of the sword and gave them to Elrond, the elf in Rivendell. Because,
this is one that's on display in
Rivendell. It's on display. And in the movies, here's a big difference between movies and book. In the movies, Elrond reforges the sword into, the name of it is Anduril. I don't know. That's the new name of it once it's reforged.
Okay.
And he gives it to Aragorn at the camp in Return of the King in the movie. But in the book, Aragorn has it in the Fellowship of the Ring in their first visit to Rivendell. So Aragorn comes across the pieces of the sword. He goes, you know what? I'm going to jack this. And so the elves reforge it for him, and he takes it with him when they set out as the Fellowship. So he's had it for a lot longer than he does in the movies.
Yes, an excellent pick. One I was actually considering putting on this list myself. I did not do that.
Okay,
but,
all right. I almost didn't want to either because that probably is one of the bigger swords. So I put it at number 5 just to give it its stay in the limelight.
Yeah, definitely. I read that another difference between the book and the movie is that it was broken into a lot more pieces in the movie than it was in the book.
All right, like powder.
I think
so. The elves are just like gathering sandbags of swords.
No, I think it was in something like 3 shards in the book and something like 6 or 7 in the movie. So it wasn't that dramatic, but just something to make a more appealing visual image, I suppose.
See, the books and like Sauron and Morgoth, they love to step on things. Like they'll step on your head, they'll step on your neck, they'll step on your weapons. Like they don't use any. I guess I don't know why they wouldn't use their hands. Like they would just break it. But
yeah,
a lot of stomping around in those books. Maybe that's why it's only broken into 3 because he like steps on it and it breaks.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's my number 5, Narsil. Okay. In its original form, not in its reforged form.
An important distinction.
Yes.
My number 4 is Glamdring, which is also known as Foe Hammer.
Yeah, it is.
A sword belonging first to Turgon and later appropriated by Gandalf after it was discovered by the trolls, or among the trolls in The Hobbit. And then Gandalf basically turns it into his beast. His A1, his bottom bitch of a sword.
He's the one that wields like the staff and the sword, which seems really, really at his disadvantage, but he manages.
Yeah, he's
just got some magic on one side, and then he just slash your face with the other.
Yeah, he's been around the bush a couple times, but apparently it's been nicknamed Beater by the goblins.
Yeah, I saw that.
As is true of most I guess metals forged by the elves. It also glows blue whenever orcs are nearby. So
it also glows white, I guess, when Gandalf wants it to do that too. So because I think he makes it turn white when he's storming Helm's Deep or something.
Yeah, man, that was an awesome
everyone's
shot.
like, "Oh my god!" Oh, and then there's the other shot when he's going up to what's that city, Minas Tirith? That you?
Yeah.
He's flashing the high beams. At that one too. So yeah, great sword. We might see it again.
Okay.
But Gandalf, if Gandalf has a sword, that's what's up.
Yeah, for sure.
My number 4 is Bard the Bowman's bow and arrow.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, this guy takes it to the dragon Smaug. See, it's Smaug, Ben. Everyone else says Smaug.
Right.
But it's Smaug because there's smoke that comes from his belly, and Smaug is like smoke.
Right.
So it makes sense that his name's Smaug.
Right.
Not Smaug, as the Brits call it. But yeah, Smaug has his little fleshy point right under some kind of armor. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I think chest.
It's a scale that's been chipped off or something. Yeah. So he's got one exposed section.
And it's a really bizarre part of The Hobbit because when I read it as a 7th grader or 6th grader, or whenever I read it, Like the whole book is about Bilbo, it's about these dwarves, it's about Gandalf, and then all of a sudden Bard comes out of nowhere. And like, who the fuck is this guy? And he's just
Yeah.
like, what's up? I'm gonna just destroy this dragon. And it's like in most movies that are made for children, it's like your hero goes the entire length of the movie being the hero, but then all of a sudden, like Bilbo and the dwarves are just shadowed by this guy who's all of a sudden taking down this huge dragon that's been tormenting him. But it sounds about right because I guess his town was being destroyed by Smaug.
It's kind of cool because like it's like they stumble into a larger battle between these two entities, you know, and like it sort of goes along with that adventure journey theme of these stories where they sort of, you know, you think it's all about them, but it's a cool way to show that there's more going on in this world than just these guys.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I like that point, Ben. Great job. You also see Bard in the films. Of course, our episodes this month are not brought to you by The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. It would be nice if we got paid by New Line Simina. How do you say it? New Line Simina. Simina? Is that a town in Middle Earth that we're forgetting? My name is Drake of Simina. So yeah, Peter Jackson has had no hand in creating these episodes.
No.
Which, I mean, really, does he need to? They're pretty great.
I mean, he could adapt these episodes into more movies if he wants.
Hey, you wouldn't have to fight with the Tolkien estate because we'll give them to you for a hefty price, but we will negotiate. We won't shut the door in your face.
Sure.
Ben, do you think Bard the Bowman's going to get his own film? Go.
I don't think so. No,
All right.
I think the Hobbit trilogy has done more than enough to give this character his due. So,
you don't think there's going to be like a Christopher Nolan backstory of Bard with his parents getting killed in the streets of Lake Town? Bard begins. The Bard Knight rises. So that's my number 4. Bard the Bowman's bow and arrow. Ben, nice. Number 3.
My number 3 is Legolas's bow and arrow.
Oh, there we go. Keeping up the theme here.
Yep, jumping in on the bow and arrow bandwagon. Man, I rewatched that sequence from the Battle of Helm's Deep from the Two Towers.
Yeah.
And Legolas is such a badass in that scene. I don't love that character, mostly because I'm not a huge Orlando Bloom fan. But
it's also kind of stuffy.
Yeah, a little bit. It seems like I prefer Gimli, you know, his sort of like his like
demeanor and his jokes,
ruffian persona, and he at least has some charisma, some swagger to him.
Legolas is a smug son of a bitch, and everything he says to poor little Gimli, he's got like this little smirk on his face. He's like, "I got you." It's like, okay, good job. You've lived for like 3,000 years. Of course, you're gonna make some pretty good jokes.
Yeah,
you're gonna have some pretty good comebacks because you've probably been insulted. 1,000+ times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, there's no denying, despite my qualms with the character overall, or the Orlando Bloom's depiction.
Completely fictional qualms about the character.
Right, yeah. His bow and arrow were put to damn good use in the Battle of Helm's Deep, especially in that one sequence where I almost put as my number 3 the random shield that he steals and slides down the staircase on. Because that's just a really awesome moment. But I figured his bow and arrows got a lot more of the glamour, and they should probably be awarded as such. So
yeah, and he pulls them so fast too, right out of his little his backpack or whatever that's called, his quiver.
Yeah, quiver. And there's that one shot in Fellowship of the Ring near the end of the movie where the orcs are like overrunning them in the woods as Frodo is running to the boat and getting ready to make his escape. Yeah. And it's a far back wide shot of Legolas sort of. I think he's in the middle of the frame or somewhere thereabouts, and like orc after orc is just coming at him, and it's just like a long shot
Yeah.
of just him like pulling out arrow after arrow and just like taking dudes down like three in a row like so fast. So
I love how if they were actually filming it, like Orlando Bloom actually is that fast, but not very accurate. And
yeah,
so like there's just arrows strewn across the forest, and like possibly someone died because he just shot an arrow too fast. He didn't know where it was
yeah.
going.
I
Um,
think my understanding is that for those shots where he's pulling them faster than most humans could, he's not actually pulling anything, and those are just digitally inserted later on.
boo, Ben.
I know. Sorry
I
to
don't want to
burst
peek
the bubble.
behind the curtain.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Tolkien's Legendarium's real.
All right. Well, what do you
I'm
got
gonna
for
have to get more drunk.
me?
My number three, and I think we mentioned him last week, the son of Hurin, Turin, who slayed the great and first dragon of Tolkien's world. His name is Glaurung, and
Okay.
actually, for the longest time, I thought Glaurung had wings, but apparently he doesn't. He just walks the earth like a lizard, and on four legs instead of a winged dragon like Smaug.
Hmm.
But he kills Glaurung with Gurthang, which is his blade of choice.
These are not real words.
No, but they're actually pretty awesome stories. In the Silmarillion, Turin goes after this dragon with just so much disdain. Like he's just like, I'm gonna slay the fuck out of this dragon, and he brings Gurthang. It's hard to just kind of remember the names of these things. Reforged, of course, from the sword Anglashell. So yeah, Ben, it's a huge battle between man and beast, man
Mhm.
versus nature, really, and the common theme that we see in many literary works.
Sure.
And as I think I've mentioned, Turin is actually married his sister unknowingly. She married him unknowingly as well, thinking that he
Mm.
wasn't her brother.
Disturbing. Yes.
They find out, and I think she kills herself, and then he goes, we can't have this, and so he falls upon Gurthang, killing himself.
Yeah.
So that's how he goes out. But it's
Well, you know what they
probably
say, Tyler. You got to turn the beat around.
yeah. he. I was gonna make a joke about something about she didn't think that he was. Oh no, I lost it. But there
There
was
is
something about
peace
Thing being Thang and Gur Thang. So insert your own joke there.
There's the season turn.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a new movie, Peter Jackson, and we all know he's listening to this,
Of course.
if you definitely negotiate with the Tolkien estate, go for the Turin Huron storyline. This is
Yeah.
you got another great big dragon that doesn't have wings, so you're gonna have to have some storytelling elements there to convince the audience that this dragon is a threat, even though it can't fly.
Right. It's
And
not
then
just a giant, salamander or something.
yeah, and then you also have the drama of the big reveal in the third of this trilogy, third movie of the trilogy, that Turin and his wife are actually brother and sister, and then they kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert! I can't print that on a Pepsi can.
Nope. No, you can't.
So have fun trying to market that. So that's my number three, Gurthang. Don't know what happened to it. I'm sure there's something that it's passed on to somebody. Oh, it was also, it could talk, too. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so it talked to Turin. It may have been Turin's madness, but I'm going to say it was the sword.
Okay. All right.
Ben, number two.
My number two is Sting, the
Okay.
classic blade
Classic.
that is hoisted by Bilbo Baggins in Hobbit.
It's actually a knife.
Right, that's what I was gonna get at. Yeah, it's I guess according to the body sizes of men and elves, it's basically a dagger, and then because the hobbits obviously are much smaller creatures, it sort of worked out pretty well that it becomes a sword of sorts for Bilbo. This is probably the most famous of the swords in the film
I
trilogy.
would say so. Or the Sixillogy, whatever it's called.
Right.
Because Frodo has Sting as well.
Yes, yeah, and that's the other reason that I chose it was much like the Mithril coat, my number 5 choice. It's another of these Middle Earthian forged objects that is passed through both of the stories of the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings itself. So once again, the continuity, something that's attractive to me. I like the history and the when you've read The Hobbit and then later you read the Lord of the Rings and Frodo is rocking Sting, he carries the history of Bilbo's adventures in his hilt. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how often Frodo uses the blade. I think Sam uses it at some point in Mordor
Yeah,
because he knows. But does he cut Smeagol's fingers or no? Smeagol bites his fingers off.
yeah, I think
I think he has it at the very end.
it's mostly used, if I remember right, against those giant spiders.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And both Bilbo and Frodo, I think, use it against the spiders, or maybe it's Sam rescuing Frodo.
Yeah.
In the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's what happens to the spiders. Sam has the light and also the sword to kill her. Yeah. Nice. Number 2, Sting. I knew that was going to come up somewhere.
Oh yeah.
My number 2 is the sword of Fingolfin, who was an elf during like the first or second age. I think the first age. And he, if you think Sauron was bad, his teacher's name was Morgoth or Melkor, and he would just dominate Middle Earth from the north. Like he had this huge fortress, and he had like all these tunnels and caves and stuff that all the orcs and stuff were working in, and he just like enslaved everybody. He enslaved elves, he enslaved men, he enslaved all kinds of things. He created dragons. He's the worst guy ever.
Wow.
Well, Fingolfin was an elf, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna fuck this guy's day. He walks right up to Angband, which is where Melkor lived, and he goes, you know what? How about you come out and face me, tiny little elf man? And Morgoth's like, all right, let's do this. And so they battle for like, I'm gonna say hours, if not days or years. I don't know.
Love it.
And Fingolfin wounds Morgoth 7 times with his sword. Morgoth still isn't dead. And then eventually Morgoth gets the upper hand on Fingolfin, and he steps on his throat, as I mentioned earlier. Loved stepping on things.
Right.
He steps on Fingolfin's throat, just ready to kill him. And with one last breath and thrust, he plunges this sword into Morgoth's foot, giving him a permanent limp. This god of destruction is wounded by this tiny little elf man's sword, and then Fingolfin dies.
How pissed he would be?
Fingolfin dies, yeah, but the eagle comes down and scratches Morgoth's face and picks up Fingolfin and takes him out of the battle.
Wow.
I don't know what happened to the sword though.
It's probably still lodged in that dude's foot.
Yeah, let's say it is. That's why he has the limp. He can't remove it. So that's a pretty epic story that you can also find in the Silmarillion, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the next couple of movies if they can get the rights to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna be probably the biggest fan of those movies, just because it's the underdog, man. It's the book that nobody's read,
right?
Unless you're a huge Tolkien fan. But it's not like in popular culture, but it will be. And this major battle between Fingolfin and Morgoth, it's going to be epic, man. That might be the beginning of the third movie, maybe the end of the second one. I'm not sure.
Right.
Not sure.
You're calling it right now.
And I'm going to make money off of it too.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be an EP.
So my
Ben,
number one.
Number
you ready
one.
for this?
Wait, I'm going to tell you my number 1 real quick.
It's Glamdring.
It's Glamdring, of course. It's Gandalf's sword.
Yes.
Duh.
Nice.
All right, so that's my number 1. We already talked about it. Ben, your number 1.
Yep. My number 1 is drum roll, please. The One Ring.
Interesting.
You're an
agent of evil.
Yeah. We're not necessarily talking. Obviously, Tyler, we're good guys. We pull for the good guys
Sure.
in life. But when it comes to Tolkien weapons, tools, and sort of artifacts of the Middle Earthian realm, it doesn't get much cooler than the One Ring to rule them all. Apparently, the ring was obviously it was originated in The Hobbit, which was written in I think 1937, and then later on it was sort of ascribed the darker powers of everything. So it seemed like Tolkien did a little bit of he sort of reworked his own material or recontextualized his own material in such a way that added some gravitas to it, which I think is
Heck
kind of a
yeah.
cool thing to do as a writer. You go back and you incorporate things that you've already written, and especially considering how popular The Hobbit was, and Lord of the Rings came out almost 20 years after The Hobbit, so
Yeah.
he had a lot of time to craft this entire expanded universe and everything, and I really like the idea of like I said before, a common theme in my choices of carrying everything over from the older stories to the new, and not to mention the elvish inscription and everything, and you've got the whole invisibility aspect, which is pretty badass. You've got this one, the whole poem, uh,
Yeah.
if you will, the rhyme of lore that one ring to rule them all and all that, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Oh, I get it. One wiki to rule them all. Now I get that. Yeah, I
but
was thinking about the One Ring because I was like, all right, what kind of weapon would it be? And so I just assumed it would be like a nuclear bomb, where it was like it would just end everything, like if it fell into the wrong hands.
mhm.
Um, and so I just assumed that, of course, Lord of the Rings is not an allegory. We've some people try to argue that it's not an allegory. Even Tolkien has said it's not an allegory. So everybody thought, oh, the Lord of the Rings was basically World War II, but he was working on it well before World War II, so
Mm-hmm.
it has no founding. But if we were going to make comparisons, I would say, yeah, like the ring would be like the end all be all of man or that people, and like if it fell into the wrong hands, it would be like, all right, yeah, we'd all be done. Like everything would be gone,
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
nothing we could do about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very very. Do you think any of those other rings would be very powerful?
I don't know, man. I think just in the if this was like a top 15 list or something, sure, I probably could have included them. But when you're sticking just to the top five, and this one is the most powerful of all of them, so I figured I might as well just jump straight to the top of the
Well,
mountain instead of wasting my time climbing all the way up.
you have the three given to the elves.
Right.
You have the 9 that were given to men.
Yep.
You have the 7 that were given to the dwarves. Do you
Oh,
think
yeah.
any of those would be able to take on the One Ring?
I don't think so. I think that's the whole point of the
Do you
One
think
Ring.
they rule them all?
Yeah, I think so. I
You're
think
saying they take them all down, huh?
yeah, they can maybe call them all together like Captain Planet style or something. I'm not
They
really
do.
sure
Yeah.
how that works in a capacity that's not described by Tolkien himself. So I
Sauron,
don't know.
Sauron forged a lot of rings, not just those. He forged all kinds of rings to basically convince. He used them as treasures, as prizes for people that did his bidding. And so
Mm.
he would hand them out and be like, "Hey, why don't you help me out? Help me out." And then he used the One Ring to basically brainwash them
Mm.
and control them. And some were better at it than others, I guess. The elves, I guess, were less likely to be swoon. Of
Yeah.
course, men were obviously swoon. That's why they became the ghouls of the Nazgul. Ben, did you hear that?
Uh, I don't know what
What
was
was
that?
what was that dark figure that just passed the window here at the Prancing Pony?
You just mentioned Nazguls. That might have been
I heard
one.
Nazgul, and then I heard a shuffle as if someone quickly left, as if someone
They'd
had
been
been alerted,
identified.
as if they'd been alerted to their presence. Ben, I don't like the feeling I'm getting
I don't like
here
this
at the
either.
Prancing Pony. I mean, we know a lot about weapons now. Do you think we should go and maybe warn somebody or maybe follow them? I don't know.
Yeah, let's go see what's going on. This
All
whole
right.
thing seems a little fishy to me.
Well, we're going to leave right now. We're going to try to track whatever's been following us or moving around in shadows of Mordor. Not brought to you by Shadows of Mordor,
The game.
the game. But Ben, of course, if we wanted to talk about our adventures here in Middle Earth, where could the Fivecasters find you online?
You can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Ben Pears.
There you go. You can also find the Fivecast on Twitter. We do still have Twitter here in Middle Earth.
Yep.
Man, that guy gave me the creeps. We gotta go after him. You can also find us on Tumblr. You can find us probably only there. iTunes is broke. Our show opens and closes with some Howard Shore music. Ben, let's get out of here before somebody finds out that we're after this guy.
All right, let's book it.
All right, next week it'll be something more fun. Tolkien Legendarium coming soon. Bye bye. Come on, Ben. Keep up. Keep up.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
We gotta find that. We gotta find that weird hooded spirit that we saw at the Prancy Pony. Man, Fangorn Forest, man, this is some deep tree action that we're seeing right now.
I'm really worried about one of those giant spiders coming down here. I gotta be honest.
Oh yeah, those spiders, they'll mess you up. Ben, we got a lot of time to kill here, trekking through one of Tolkien's most deepest of forests. Do you want to do a top five? You mentioned spiders, so top five creatures of Middle Earth, perhaps?
Sure, yeah. We can take a breather and do that real quick.
In the many scrolls that we carry with us on our person, do you have a list that matches something along those lines?
I think I do. Yeah, right here under my cloak, under my mithril coat.
Let me shuffle through my bag, my Bilbo bag.
Oh.
And here we go. Let me break the seal here. All of my top five lists are sealed, just so no one else can steal my top five list.
Know.
Yeah, unless I reveal it to them.
Sure.
In which case I have to kill the person that I reveal it to. Top five creatures. Again, Ben, in the normal human 21st century, it's Tolkien month.
It is.
And we're celebrating the release of There and Back Again.
The Battle of the Five Armies.
Or There and Back Again. As we were discussing.
Yeah.
We were discussing off air where that title went, and it went nowhere, apparently.
Yeah.
Ben, you checked it out. Only positive reviews, huh?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's for completists only, I think. Even I can't even say for Tolkien fans, because Tolkien fans are probably the ones who are going to have the most problems with it.
Okay, all right.
Which I assume that if you're listening to, what is it, the third entry of Tolkien month on the podcast, then you're probably a Tolkien fan. Otherwise, I assume you just skip these episodes. So you're people who are listening to this.
This is all canon, by the way.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have some serious issues with this movie. I'm just not a fan of it. There's no way. There's absolutely no reason it should have been 3 movies. I was sort of. I've been saying that ever since they made the decision to stretch one book into 3 movies with The Hobbit, and I was, I guess I didn't have the full validity of that opinion of seeing all of the movies. Before launching into that opinion. But now that I have seen all of them, there's really no artistic reason. Like, I was like, maybe there could be something awesome in the third one that makes this all worth it or whatever. And no, absolutely not. So,
well, Ben, surprise, they're making a 4th Hobbit movie.
They are not.
Which is going to bring all 4 together. And it's going to be basically episode 3 of Star Wars. And it's just going to blow people's minds.
Oh,
it's based on a book that hasn't even been written by J.R.R. Tolkien yet. They are bringing him back from the grave. They're gonna they're gonna pull him out of his coffin and basically put a pen in his hand, and he's gonna scribble some notes down, and then we're gonna make a movie.
And then they're gonna adapt that.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like 2 of gibberish, and they'll stretch it into a 10-film.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, you gotta make some money, man. The CEOs at Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema and Peter Jackson, these guys need to make a living, Ben. They need some money to pay the bills, to install 7 swimming pools into their backyard or whatever they need.
Right.
And so it's our job as citizens.
6 of which filled with nothing but cocaine.
Yeah, gold bars. It's our job as a movie-going citizen to pay them our hard-earned cash so that they can live a better life. It's just like J.R.R. Tolkien wanted.
Hashtag not our job.
I wish I could start a hashtag of any clout.
Trend it.
Trend it. Ben, top 5 creatures of Middle Earth. Let's start with number 5.
All right, so my number 5 is the Watcher in the Water. I don't know if you recall this particular creature, Tyler.
But this have a poster of it.
Oh, you do? Wow.
I have a poster of the lake where the creature is in the frame almost of the picture, but then there's let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so the Watcher in the Water, according to one wiki to rule them all, a horrifying and mysterious beast with many tentacles living in a pool near the west gate of Moira in Middle Earth. So if you'll recall in the movie when the Fellowship decides to head to Moira, and they're trying to open the gate with the password and everything. The characters get attacked by this giant creature, which is basically a
Kraken.
a Jules Verne-esque, yeah, giant octopus with however many tentacles it has and giant gnashing teeth, and it's basically a yeah, pretty terrifying thing. So, and I figure this thing lays dormant all the time,
Yeah.
just underneath in this one. It's like a lake basically.
Yeah.
It can't really go anywhere. You're not going to see it, galumphing around outside of the lake. It seems to be
Going to get a gallon of milk or something.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, what are these guys doing at the gate?
It seems to need to be in the water at all times, and it's sort of cut off from the rest of society. So I figured I'd give it some props just because it probably doesn't see much action, and I can't really blame it for trying to attack the Fellowship because I mean Moira seemed like a desolate, empty place for a long time. And what else? I mean, this guy, he's just lonely basically. What do you want? He just wanted to watch Game of Thrones with these guys. And
I mean, who's to say he was actually attacking them? Maybe he was trying to give them a hug. Maybe
yeah,
trying to
pull
greet
them
them in
down
some way.
into like his awesome like bro cave underneath the water or something.
He doesn't know that they can't breathe underwater.
Yeah, he's been cut off so long that he's forgotten the differences between species.
He's forgotten everything. Smee, Bob Hoskins, rest in peace.
Yes.
So yeah, he's got that sweet bro cave, and again, we don't know for sure in Tolkien's Legendarium if man and hobbit and wizard can breathe underwater. Like, it's never addressed that they can't, so I'm going to assume that they can. So they could have easily just gone down and hung out. Maybe there was like a secret tunnel from the Watcher's bro cave to Mordor.
Yeah, and
and they missed out on it.
Saved 2 movies worth of time. But
but then how would Peter Jackson have had those 7 swimming pools filled with cocaine? Ben, you're not seeing the big picture here.
I'm not.
That's a great pick, man. I didn't even think about it. I'm assuming, how many of these do you think exist in the world? Do you think it's just the one?
There's just that one, yeah.
Just the
it's
one?
a singular Watcher in the water. It seems to imply that there's only that one, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm hoping that in the oceans deep that there's just a whole family, and somehow this guy just got, like, Echo the dolphin separated from his crew, and he's just been sitting there in the lake for, like, 17 millennia waiting for a friend, and then these guys, they fuck it up. They don't they don't enter the house that he was clearly trying to welcome them into. I like it, Ben. Number 5, the Watcher. Do we know for sure what he is? Does one wiki to rule them all give any kind of species, like
a horrifying and mysterious beast? It says.
That's good enough for me.
Yeah, we'll just have to go with that. I'll try to get our intern to look into it a little bit more. But yeah,
Dave, look into that. My number 5 is a tie between one of the largest creatures of Middle Earth, perhaps, and one of the smallest. Hobbits. I love hobbits. And Balrogs.
Okay.
So I basically put 2 opposites together.
Yeah.
Hobbits, of course, living the lifestyle, smoking pipe weed, eating 6 meals a day, whatever it is, drinking heavily, living in holes, whatever. Nothing to really worry about, except when, Saruman tries to take over the Shire. I guess they worry a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So mad respect for the Hobbit world. And then, of course, the Balrogs, which are these huge evil creatures with fiery wings and fiery swords and just fiery breath. Although they're nothing compared to the power of Gandalf and Glamdring, because as we saw, the most famous Balrog, I guess, is Durin's Bane, deep in the halls of Moria, as you've previously mentioned. So not only do you have to deal with the Watcher on the water, you also have to deal now with a Balrog.
Yeah, and those 2 probably hang out, I'm guessing, because the Balrog came from deep within, so maybe he came from basically the Watcher in the Water's bro cave.
Yeah.
And, there's, along the way, along that straight shot shortcut directly to Mordor, there's a little opening, a little hatch in the roof.
Yeah.
Just pops him right up into
There's a side hatch.
Bowels of Moira. Yeah.
So yeah, again, probably not the best creature to hang out with because they were servants of Morgoth, as we've mentioned in the previous episodes. Morgoth being like the teacher of Sauron. But after Morgoth is chained and sent into the void,
Morgoth, the throat stepper.
yeah, he likes to step on throats. Who's to say that these Balrogs didn't just be like, all right, I guess our spell is broken, we can just chill with everybody else. But because they have like volcanic lungs that just breathes fire,
Yep.
and they have the fiery whips and the fiery wings, people think that they're automatically, a bad guy. But as we've already mentioned, they just like to bro out in their bro caves with watchers and horrific sea creatures.
Yep.
And I think they need to come out a little bit more so that they can, kind of get people on board with their species. Because as Tolkien mentioned, by the Third Age, there were at least 3, but no more than 7 still in existence. Yeah, so most of them were killed during the First Age. But yeah, Balrogs, even though there's like 7 left, maybe they need to step it up. Maybe start reproducing again.
Okay, yeah, we gotta get that Balrog on Balrog action.
We're really banking though that they're good guys. If they're bad guys, we need to wipe them out, like just automatic. Like Gandalf, just bring out Glamdring, just cut them down, mow them over. Yep. But if they're good guys, let's let them cohabitate with the rest of us.
Yeah,
they're really something to look at though, Ben. Have you seen one?
I have seen one.
All right. Have you seen a Hobbit?
I have, yeah.
Do hobbits become like the leprechauns of our world? What happens to hobbits?
That's a good question too. They are about the right size for it.
I thought for the longest time that hobbits became us, and that they were greater men before us. Like Aragorn, his race of men kind of disappeared, and we became hobbits, or hobbits became us. But then, I don't know.
That's an interesting theory.
Because the hobbits seemed a lot more like us. They were kind of the outsiders looking in kind of thing, where like the Roman or the Greek chorus of the famous plays of the Colosseum or whatever that thing was called.
Yeah.
So yeah, hobbits and Balrogs, number 5. Ben, thoughts? Any?
Dude, I dig it. We might see one of those pop up again.
All right, let's move on. Number 4. This Fangorn Forest is getting kind of spooky, but we can keep going. Number 4.
Speaking of that spookiness, number 4, my number 4 is the Nazgul, the creature that I think we're chasing right now.
I think we're on the trail of the Nazgul, yes.
And this is obviously a ring wraith, and
yes. One of the 9 men.
Yes, the great kings who were given the rings of power, and then basically just became slaves to Sauron.
Yeah.
And then they lost their very bodies and became just almost ghost shadows, if you will.
Agents of evil.
Yes, and these things are pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
And
they scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, and I love the design of them and the way that they're depicted in the films. And they ride like evil horses, which those don't seem to be dead.
No, so they seem abused because I'm pretty sure their hooves are all bloodied and their eyes are red.
They've just can you imagine the horse that's just like cruising around, or maybe he's on like the selling block or something, and a Nazgul just shows up in the auction, and he's like, "I bid 5." I don't know what the currency is in Middle Earth, but
and the horse is just like, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit."
Please not me, please not me, please.
Do you think they communicate with each other, the Nazgul and the horse?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, at this point, the Nazgul are basically just specters of another dimension, so I'm not sure what their capabilities are when it comes to communication, but it seems like they would have a better chance than humans or hobbits with being able to communicate with the horses, just because I don't know what happens in the Spectre verse, but maybe they'll run into the real estate agents trying to sell the Poltergeist house. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'll call back to a previous episode where we were caught. It's sometimes called the Netherworld, sometimes called the Spectreverse.
Right.
I don't remember seeing any Nazgul, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they live somewhere in that dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ride those horses hard though, man,
Yeah.
and
They don't give them any rest.
no rest, no quarter. Um, and then of course the main Nazgul gets owned by Princess Rohan or whatever her name is, and because she's not a man, I guess they can be defeated by women
Mm-hmm.
or hobbits or I don't know, wizards maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one thinks to remember that prophecy. They go, yeah, we'll just let men take him on.
Yeah.
But they could have easily just said, okay, well, let's get an Ent on our side and then go.
Prophecy, schmophecy.
Yeah. So, what is his name? Theoden, and then his niece, I guess, is who killed the Nazgul.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I guess the best part of the movie is when all 9 of them like gang up on. Well, in the movie, it's Arwen and Frodo, and all 9 collect right on top because
Oh man.
at the beginning of the books, it's like just a few of them are wandering around,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden they're like reunited, and it's like, oh shit, it's all 9. Oh god!
Yeah.
Like they really caught on. So I remember that being scary in the book. I remember it being scary in the movie, and then Harry Potter wrote a book about the Dementors, which are basically Nazgul.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so those guys Rowling took the scariness and applied it to them, which is that plagiarism then? I'm not sure. I'll let the the jury decide on that.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I just discovered that there's a winged when I was doing research for this list, and by that I mean
Anyway, we were in the libraries of Isengard.
yes, exactly. I was thank you for the assist there.
No problem.
I discovered that there's something a winged insect in the world of Middle Earth, a creature that didn't make my list, but it is called a Dumbledore.
Ooh.
And that's another thing that J.K. Rowling just essentially jacked straight from
There's
good old
pieces.
Tolkien. So.
2 pieces of evidence that are just going to bring down the Rowling Empire.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about you, Tyler?
My number 4 is going to make you pretty upset that you didn't include it on your list, and it's moths.
Moths. Okay.
Yeah, so we had talked off air about how we jokingly said that moths could be on this list, and Ben, you said, I don't know if I'm going to include those. And I was like, all right, yeah, good job. Good idea. And I'm like, boom!
It was because
moths.
we're gonna drop it.
Number 4. Now, moths are very important here, Ben.
Yes.
Let me tell you a little story about this one little moth named Herbert. A moth named Herbert who lived in the great forests of Isengard, but then all of a sudden his home began to disappear. And Saruman cut down the trees, and he dug tunnels and caves where the orcs would work on the Uruk-hai or whatever is going on down there. And the moth is like flying around. He's like, where's my home? I don't know where to go. All of a sudden, who does he see on the top of the Isengard Tower?
That'd be good old Gandalf.
Gandalf the Grey. Gandalf goes, oh, Mr. Moth. He goes, my name's Herbert. He goes, oh, Herbert, I need your help. And Moth goes, all right, whatever. I don't have a home, so I guess I'll do this freelance work for you.
Give me $5, bitch.
And so Gandalf goes, he kind of blows into him, which kind of irritates Herbert. No one really knows that, but blowing on a moth is very irritating. But I guess he's breathing some kind of wizard magic into him.
Yeah, and I think that annoyance is what took Herbert so long to actually accomplish his mission, is because he was sort of spiting Gandalf for blowing in his face.
He took a side trip for like a smoothie somewhere, and he was like, fuck this guy, I'm going to go get a smoothie first. And then he goes and alerts the Eagles, who come back to Isengard to rescue Gandalf, all because of this one moth. So Ben, if you look at the big scheme of things, this moth saved Gandalf, who went on to save so many other people.
Yep.
Including probably Frodo. And Frodo destroyed the ring in one way or another. So I'm gonna give
the entirety of Middle Earth.
The entire Tolkien universe was saved by this one moth.
Herbert
gives him the number 4 spot.
Nowhere to go but up from there.
Yeah. So enjoy that limelight, Herbert the moth, and all the moths that he bore later on. There's a huge mythology in this moth species that no one really knows about, but it's there. Don't worry, it's there.
Herbite, son of Herbert.
Yep. Herbert the Third.
All right.
So that's my number 4. Ben, let's move on. Number 3.
All right, so my number three is I'm gonna go ahead and call him Smog, even though
Okay.
everyone in the movie world seems to refer to him as a variation on Smaug for
Smaug.
some reason. But yeah, this freaking dragon, man, this is
Yes, Ben, guess what my number 3 is?
it's Smaug.
It's dragons, but yes,
Oh,
specifically
okay.
Smaug.
All right, yeah. So I think
Smog.
this is one of those guys that I don't know if we've done top five dragons lists, Tyler.
No, I've wanted
Uh,
to,
okay,
but
and
I'm trying to think of more than 5 dragons.
the one from Dragonheart,
Yep.
Draco,
There's the one.
Sean Connery. He would.
Number 1, obviously.
There's a mini five of dragons right now.
There you go.
But no.
Oh, Ben, do you
Smog-
want to do a top? You want to do a mini 5 dragons?
I mean, I can't think of. I can think
Let's
of.
do it. Mini 5 dragons.
Draco is my number one.
All right. That would be my number 1 as well.
I'm gonna throw Smog in there at number two.
Okay.
And then I got it. And then 3, 4, and 5 are Daenerys Targaryen's dragons from Game
There
of
we
Thrones.
go. Nice job. All right. My mini 5 is, of course, number 1, Smog.
Oh, okay.
Number 2, Draco from Dragonheart.
Yep.
Number 3, Mushu from Mulan,
Nice. Okay.
voiced by Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
Number 4 is the dragon that Maleficent turns into in the classic cartoon
Oh, yeah.
version of Sleeping Beauty.
Good one.
And number 5 is, I'm going to say, and this is a weird one, it's Peach Dragon.
Okay.
He's the cartoon dragon that interacts with not only Andy Rooney but other human beings.
Isn't he
Pre
invisible?
Roger Rabbit, he can become invisible.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he burns the lighthouse back before a ship crashes. But yeah, I think only the kid can see him for a while, and then he reveals himself to others.
Yep. Yep.
You could also go with Puff the Magic Dragon.
Oh, yeah, that's
honorable
a-
mention.
Yeah.
Stuff the Magic Dragon, the Magic's mascot.
Oh yeah. Right.
You could go with there's the 3 Daenerys' dragons. That's a good pick as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that brings another episode of the Mini 5 to a close.
All right.
But back to Smog.
Smog. This is one of the I'm gonna say formative dragons in my childhood. One that sort of laid the groundwork in my mind, laid the foundation for what dragons should be. I think this was the first dragon, because you see Pete's dragon as a kid, you see the one in Sleeping Beauty Maleficent turns into. But there's not really a lot of mythology around those. This one was the first one where I was like, oh, dragons are, they're like super protective over their hoard of treasure and stuff like that, like things that are actually incorporated into other dragon lore. Smaug, Tolkien created, inserted Smaug into that grand tradition, the larger tradition of dragon lore, which I appreciate as a kid. And then, he's got a ton of names, dude. I'm looking at the one wiki to rule them all. I'm going to read them off for you right now.
This month brought to you by One Wiki to rule them all.
So his titles are Lord Smog, King Under the Mountain.
Yes.
His other names. Here we go. You ready for this?
I love King Under the Mountain so much.
Bash off this name here. Smog the Golden, Smog the Impenetrable, Smog the Magnificent, the Tremendous, Smog the Unaccessibly Wealthy, Smog the Mighty, the Terrible, the Stupendous, the Tyrannical, Chiefest and Greatest of Calamities, Your Magnificence, the Dragon Dread, and the Tragu, which I don't know what that is, but
so many names for a guy who just sits and sleeps in a mountain.
A ton. And say what you will about him, about the fact that mostly all he does is just kind of sort of chill there in Erebor. But or
the Lonely Mountain to people who were kids when they read The Hobbit and they don't remember all those intense words.
Yeah.
Erebor, that's the that's the Dwarven kingdom, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a Dwarven kingdom that was in the Lonely Mountain until the movie came out.
Yeah.
Because when I read The Hobbit, I was like, oh, it's just a mountain with a bunch of treasure in it. I guess at some point in the book, they mention that kingdom, but it was long forgotten by me
Yeah.
until the movie came back out. But yeah, dragons in general, Ben. There's the fire drakes, which is what Smaug falls into because
Yep.
he's got wings and he breathes fire, obviously.
Yep.
There's also cold drakes, which are dragons who can't breathe fire. Then there are some winged dragons, of course. There are wingless dragons that just walk like salamanders, and then there's like serpent dragons, which are kind of like the Chinese dragons or sea serpents or snakes. I don't know if they can fly or not, but I'm assuming you can only fly with wings. But Smaug is one of those lucky dragons that can fly, breathe fire. He's got it all, and that's why he has all those names. Probably like townsfolk trying to appease his ego so he doesn't burn them to death.
Yep.
That's what I'm assuming. I'm sure he also forces them in some way to name him great things. He's an egomaniac,
Got it.
and he needs to be slain. After we find this Nazgul and interrogate him, we're gonna go after that Smaug guy
All right.
and end his reign of terror and his inconceivable wealth, or whatever that other title was called.
Yeah.
What was it again?
The unaccessibly wealthy.
Unaccessibly. We're gonna assess his own assess.
We're gonna assess the shit out of
Yeah,
him.
so F you, Smog. I love that this character, he actually makes my top 5 list of bad guys you should really be worried about, or something like that. Villains you should really be aware of. I think Dengar from the Star Wars universe is in there. A very, very lesser known bounty hunter.
Okay.
And Smog is definitely in there, so he needs to be taken down a notch, if not as many as possible. Ben, that was our number 3, along with a little mini 5. If you need to go back and listen to that,
Yep.
just hit rewind. Ben, number 2.
All right, Tyler. So my number 2 is the Balrog. You already mentioned it.
There we go.
Ty, for your top 5. You've already said pretty much all there is to be said about the Balrog. It's an epic-looking creature, really demonic and terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the most feared creatures, I think, in the entirety of Middle Earth.
Of course.
The thing that I really like about it is I'm looking at the one wiki to roll them all,
Of course.
and the physical description of the Balrog says it's a Maiar as far as the race goes.
Yeah.
It is the Maiar of Evil, a servant of Morgoth for the culture. It's 14 to 18 feet or larger for the height.
Okay.
Its eye color is reddish white, and its hair color is mane of flames.
Which is my new Finnish heavy metal group, Mane of Flames.
Yes.
So
awesome.
check us out in the Scandinavian area.
Those guys rock so hard.
Yeah, coming winter 2015.
But yeah, I love the mane of flames for the hair color, and man, the Balrog, like that whole "Fly You Fools" sequence from Fellowship is
So sad.
Yeah, it's great.
That is the most heart-wrenching scene of the entire sixology. Even though I knew Gandalf was coming back, it hit so hard.
Yeah, man.
Spoiler alert, he comes back. He battles the Balrog in the depths of Moria.
I love that part
Yeah.
when it's like the explanation for what happened, because it seems like time just has no meaning anymore, and they
Right.
could have battled for years.
20 years maybe.
Yeah.
I want to know how long book-wise, because for some reason in the books, as opposed to the movies, like the amount of time that goes by, like when Gandalf left Bilbo's party, and then when he came back to tell Frodo about the ring, it was 17 years.
When he left Bilbo's party.
So when Bilbo left, basically at the end of his party, he disappeared and he gave the ring to Frodo.
Yeah. Oh.
At the very, very beginning of the movie. And then Gandalf goes and he's like, I think this is the One Ring. But he goes to do some research on it.
Yeah.
17 years go by in the book before he comes back to tell Frodo, hey, get the hell out of here.
So when he comes back and says, is it secret, is it safe? That was 17
Yeah.
years after that. Wow.
I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about, Gandalf? What is secret?
What secret? What the hell?
I've been married. I have 5 kids.
Jeez.
So, like, I'm hoping that the time when he drops down the bridge in Khazad-dûm, and when he reappears as Gandalf the White, like, I want to say 43 years went by where he battled the Balrog. No, I'm joking. But I'm just saying, I'm hoping it's
Well,
that
I
long.
wouldn't be surprised, you know, it could be something like that because then when he becomes Gandalf the White, I'm sure he has the ability in some fashion to
Go back in time.
manipulate time. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
so
I don't know.
He Doc Brown that, huh?
Yeah, maybe. I think so. I think he could.
Gandalf the White is the new Doc Brown in Back to the Future 4.
Yeah.
Would you kickstart that?
Uh, only if Christopher Lloyd played him.
Marty, we have to go back in time to Middle Earth to beat the Balrog again. So they take the DeLorean back in time, so far back in time they enter Tolkien's Legendarium,
Oh wow.
which I've read is theoretically part of our history, but not. There's two parallel universes
Oh, I
where
see.
one is our universe and the other is like our universe, but it also has Tolkien's Legendarium as its history. So
Okay,
all
so
we get are like the three pyramids.
so where we are right now, chasing this Nazgul, we have jumped into a
Oh
parallel
yes,
dimension.
oh yes, very much so. Like Doc Brown and Marty jumped to the 1950s timeline. We have jumped to another universe's timeline and backwards.
Okay, all right.
Because I guess Tolkien said we're in like the sixth or fifth age in the 20th century or 21st century. But I get kind of lost after that. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's my
Balrog's number two.
So,
Balrog getting beaten by Doc Brown of the Middle Earth universe. My number two, Kickstarter that, is I think we're gonna see a few of these here in Fangorn. It's the Ents, the great Ents, the trees that speak and move.
okay.
Under some mystical powers, they're children of the Valar, I believe. I think they were birthed later than elves, later than men, because I think elves were like the first creatures of Middle Earth, I guess.
Okay.
It's kind of weird because I guess the different creatures or the different species were born or they woke up from a very long sleep or something like that. Like the elves were created, but they weren't awake yet, and men were created, but they weren't awake yet, and dwarves, and so on and so forth. Yeah, the Ents, man, they're like walking trees. They were created by the main god at the behest of Yavanna after she learned that the dwarves. She didn't like the idea that dwarves wanted to cut down trees. So I guess they created the Ents to protect them, to protect the trees that couldn't protect themselves.
Yep.
So of course
Seems noble.
yeah, so they have a noble cause. They speak very slowly because I guess their idea of time is a lot longer than ours. So
Yeah.
Gandalf and an Ent would probably have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
And if they were talking, they would either speak Entish or Westron. So I guess I don't know what Westron is. Is that English? I guess I don't know.
The sister language of Westeros, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's the closest thing to the universal language of Middle Earth.
You know what?
They're twice the size of men, or taller.
I respect your pick. I hate those guys.
Oh no!
In the Two Towers, that was my least favorite part of
Oh really?
the movie. Yeah,
That
I
was one of
just
my
like,
favorite parts.
they talk so slow. It just brings the
Oh, but
entire
that's
thing
funny.
to a crushing halt.
Well,
Like
yeah.
it just destroys the pace of the movie.
That's exactly what they do. They're like Pippin and Merry are like, we gotta go do this, and they're like, okay, and then they go and they meet for like I'm gonna say 9 years before coming back to Pippin and Merry, who've just been sitting in trees for 9 years, and they go, I don't think we're gonna do anything just yet. But it's that
Thanks a lot, asshole.
the Ents represent the environment, man, and the orcs represent industrialization, and the industrialization is taking over the trees and the forest, and then the Ents fight back, and they just own that shit. When those Ents are attacking Isengard, you don't think that's cool?
I mean, I like that part. I guess
I just don't like that they talk.
Yeah, they just that whole they walk so slowly and they do everything so slowly. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, pick it up just a little bit. Like I
The
appreciate
trees, man.
I appreciate what they represent, but it's just as far as pacing and stuff, it just doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, they own shit. They destroy orc. They destroy any kind of infrastructure at Isengard. One's hair slash leaves or whatever catches on fire, and he just kind of dips it into the crashing river that's flooding everything.
Yep,
But they're so tall that they, that kind of nature, that man versus nature, which a huge river would instantly destroy us.
Mm-hmm.
To the Ents, it's like a trickle. It's like a morning mist, if you will. It's nothing. So the Ents, and I always like the idea of I think Pippin and Merry mentioned that in the Shire somewhere there were trees that were heard to speak to each other. And I always like the idea of like lesser Ents that didn't move but could still speak. Or like in other parts of the world, so you never knew where the Ents were because they just look like regular trees.
Right.
I also like that they're separate from trees. So there's the trees, and then there's the Ents.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind
of not every tree is an Ent.
But yes, but every Ent is a tree.
Yes.
Or looks like a tree.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is my number 2. You know how much I love the environment. If you go, you love the environment too, of course, Ben.
I do.
But you would apparently cut down an Ent if you had the chance. So go back and just burn them into your firewood. But yeah, you can
faster.
You can go back and listen to our episode on the WWF. What was that one called? Talking on the wild side. Top 5 wild animals. That's right. So that's my number 2. Ben, we're here.
All right,
Fangorn. I think I saw an Ent move. We're not Ben. Still your desire to hunt that Ent down. We're actually after the Nazgul. So until we can rest a little more, let's talk about your number 1.
I will lower my blade temporarily.
You're just like you're bark thirsty for these Ents.
Constantly cocked and just every time just
let's know the rings of this Ent. Whoosh.
Staring down every tree as we pass it, just waiting for any motion. Was that wind or was that you? Ent. All right, so no, my number 1, Tyler. I got to admit, I'm very excited about this choice.
Okay.
This may be the most excited I've been about a number 1 choice in a long time, just because of how random and ridiculous.
60 episodes, folks. He's the most excited he's ever been about his.
It's up there. It's definitely This is one of my favorite number 1s of any in 5cast history.
It's in your top 5 most excited for number 1s list.
Yes, for sure. Okay, are you ready for this?
Yes.
It is my number 1 creature of Middle-earth. A troll purse, which is a creature that I had no idea actually existed. And this is one that is so weird that I have to read you the one wiki entry almost in its entirety, but I won't do the whole thing. Basically, a troll purse is a creature of unknown origin that trolls use to avoid being pickpocketed. This is hilarious to me. Bilbo encounters one in The Hobbit when he comes across the trolls. And okay, so here we go. So the origin section of the Wikipedia page says, it is unknown what these creatures are or where they came from. They couldn't have been made by trolls. Trolls can't make much of anything, as even Morgoth can only alter and not truly create life. Wow. They could have been bred by Sauron for the purpose of making sure that important goods carried by trolls could not be stolen.
Sure.
However, since it would be strange to create such a being just for trolls, it is likely that they go all the way back to the First Age, bred by Morgoth to resemble purses. Oh. In this case, they were probably used by spies and thieves.
Okay.
If one of the pre-mentioned possibilities is correct, then trolls probably took these purses for themselves after the fall of Sauron at the end of the Second Age. Okay. Either trolls figured out how to breed them, or the purses lived forever and were antiques among trolls. And then in parentheses, it says unlikely.
Well, then why put it in there? I don't know. Maybe they bred them. It's unlikely.
And then it says, apart from the pre-mentioned, the only other possibilities are...
All right, here we go. List them off.
I love this. They are creatures that have an uncanny resemblance to persons.
Okay. Well established.
Oh my god. Or they were animals of some sort decorated to
to look like Sauron in his tower, just seething, is like, the next thing I'm gonna do is make an animal that looks like a purse. Breed them immediately.
And then oh man, and then it says it's unknown whether trolls.
Oh no!
I'm sorry. It's unknown whether trolls actually keep their valuables.
So their total use is in question.
Yeah. Basically, it's unknown whether they keep their valuables in the troll purses or if they keep their valuables elsewhere. And the troll purse is just a lure. If the latter is the case, then the fourth and fifth possibilities are more likely than the first three. Which this entire page just seems like somebody going, hell, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Anything, I don't know. Oh man, this whole thing just cracks me up. And then
Hey
it says,
Phil, we need a wiki page dedicated to troll purses. We need it to be at least 5 to 7 paragraphs. Can you get that for us?
And then the very end of it says, given that when Bilbo took the troll purse from William's pocket, it yelled, "Oi, who are you?" We can either assume the troll purses are sentient,
of course,
or are trained to respond in certain ways.
Okay.
So
interesting take.
That entire thing is just a clusterfuck of an entry, and I love the idea and the possible origins and histories of troll purses. The fact that they may or may not be used for real for real troll pursing, and man, yeah, this is it's one of my favorite, most ridiculous things I've ever come across. So
I can understand why it would jump immediately to your number one. There's such an air of mystery about it.
There really is, yeah.
It's a troll purse, but is it truly a purse? And is it meant for trolls? We don't know.
It could have been around forever.
Here are 17 possibilities, and we'll allow you to pick one that actually is true.
I apologize to the listeners.
Oh no, that's
breaking down so much.
Fantastic podcasting, because it's all about real experiences, man. That's your experience with the troll purse.
I'm wiping tears away right now. Oh man.
Just imagine you're trapped by trolls, like fearing death. You're about to be dropped into like a boiling pot of stew, and all of a sudden you come across a troll purse, and you're just laughing as you're lowered into the boiling cauldron.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Ben, I loved it, but not as much as I love my number one.
All right, what is it? Let's hear it.
It's the eagles.
Oh, the eagles, of course.
The huge herd or flock, I guess, of eagles. Dave, can you double check to see what word is used to explain a group of eagles?
Flock of eagles or flock of seagulls?
You're thinking flock of seagulls. Those are eagles that live by the sea.
Yep.
Do you think that's actually where they get their name?
No, I don't.
Seagulls? Gulls, seagulls? All right.
I can't imagine that's true.
But these eagles, oh man, Ben, huge history here. I think the king of the eagles is named Thorondor.
Okay.
Which is an awesome name. I don't know if they can speak. They're definitely sentient, and I think the eagles have been around for all 3 ages. The great eagles were initially the messengers and spies of the king for the king of Arda, which is one of the gods that lives in the Undying Lands.
Mm-hmm.
And then and they possess the ability to see through all physical matter. They possess the ability to see through all physical matter except for the blackness of Morgoth's evil pits.
They can see, like, X-ray vision stuff?
I guess so, yeah. They can see into the depths of dwarven kingdoms, I assume.
That's cool, because then maybe they could look through mountains and across long distances and look through, obstructions created by the land itself to see where they need to go.
The king of these eagles was Thorondor, and descendants of his included the eagle lord Gwaihir, who carried Gandalf many times during the Third Age. So, if you rewind back to what we mentioned when we mentioned moths, the moth goes and gets Gwaihir, I guess, because Gandalf can't ride the moth. We all know that.
Yep.
And I guess Gandalf was just like, hitching a ride with this eagle whenever he needed, some fast passage across Middle Earth. If he didn't use Gwei here, he probably used Shadowfax, his trusty steed,
Yes.
which is a great New Age group if you ever come across Shadowfax.
Trusty steed, or
Yeah. Um, so yeah, they live up in like a little place called the Eagles Eries. I don't know.
okay.
So that's where they kind of perch, and then they come down whenever they're called. And their lifespan, Ben,
Let's hear it.
immortal.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
I was not expecting
they
that.
live forever.
Okay.
They speak Westron Kinye, they speak Sindarin, they speak Valeran, and they also speak all Elvish dialects.
Wow,
So
these
they
guys
do speak.
they're basically, well, I guess if they're immortal, they have no excuse not to learn every language,
Right.
basically.
No
Um,
excuse.
and then they're basically like the cavalry of Middle Earth. Like they always
Awesome.
come in and
Yes.
save the day, which is pretty badass.
Their average height, huge, possibly larger than 100 feet.
Jeez.
Skin color, unknown. Thanks, one we could roll them all. Possibly the same color as a troll purse. No. Possibly the skin color of a real life eagle. Feather color, brown, gold, black. Oh, I thought they were talking about the actual colors of the eagles. They separated skin color and feather color, which is nice. So there you go. The eagles. Many people joke about how the eagles could have just carried Frodo to Mordor and dropped it right there into the volcano
Right?
of Mount Doom. I
Just
don't.
true.
Yeah, it's true, and it's funny, but I don't think that's the role of the Eagles, Ben. The Eagles, much as The Rock said back in the old days, they know their role, and they don't get involved in unless called upon by, let's say, one of their masters, like the gods of the Undying Lands. You know,
Mhm.
they're not going to do the bidding of small hobbits or even elves, let's say.
Yeah, they're not your prank monkey, basically.
Yeah, I mean Gandalf, he's not an elf, he's not a man, he's kind of special, so I guess they help him out because he's like them. He's kind of a minion, or not a minion. That kind of insinuates some kind of
Yeah.
evil agent. But he's
A lackey or some sort. I don't
an ally of the gods. So I guess they help each other out. But even Gandalf isn't that. You know, I mean Gandalf himself could have gone into Mordor with Frodo, but he doesn't do that either. So
know. Right.
you know, there's a lot of literary reasons why they wouldn't get involved. So,
Sure.
Ben, thoughts on Eagles in general?
I mean, I like them. Take it easy. Take it to the limit.
Yeah,
Uh, um.
the Lion Eyes. That's a
Yep.
good one.
Hotel California.
I love the solo stuff they did. Like you had Don Henley.
Yeah.
You got Joe Walsh.
Glenn Fry.
You got
Yep.
some Dirty Laundry.
I actually just watched a 3-hour documentary on the Eagles that's on Netflix
That's
streaming.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Aren't they all douchebags?
No, they seemed okay.
All right.
For the most part.
Okay.
But yeah,
All right.
good stuff. No,
Tolkien was a huge fan of the Eagles. I know that. Sure.
well, yeah, I do.
His last
I
2 years of
appreciate.
life.
I appreciate the Eagles, the creature Eagles being the cavalry of Middle Earth, and the fact that they don't have to do pretty much anything, especially if they're immortal. They could just sit there and be like, "Go screw yourself. I really don't care about your problems. You're gonna die, and I'm still gonna be here."
But they're more nobler than that.
Yeah, exactly. But that they don't choose to go the douchebag way of life, and they actually do help out when needed. So, good stuff. Good choice.
Oh, do you think Lying Eyes, You Can't Hide Your Lying Eyes by the Eagles is based on the fact that the Eagles of Tolkien's Legendarium could see through most things?
Or maybe it was a direct decree or address to Sauron himself and the single eye.
Oh, you
Because-
can't hide your lying eye.
Right.
That's a
and
misprint on the album.
yeah, I think that's what it is. I think somebody went in and added the S in post just to not freak everybody out. But
Some rogue
that's-
intern.
Yeah, that's the true meaning behind that
Oh
song.
man, shit. I wanted to do a top 5 songs or music based on Tolkien's Legendarium, and that could have been in the top 5. Even though there's legitimate music that's based on Tolkien's work. Of course, Led Zeppelin has a few songs. Rush.
We could do a mini 5 right now. Another one.
That would be just the only 2. Is Rush's Rivendell and that Led Zeppelin song where he mentions the Mordor.
Yeah, and then maybe the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins as
Oh.
by Leonard Nimoy.
Bilbo Baggins. Somebody did an interview with the cast of The Hobbit, and it was some joke blogger. I don't know who it is. Probably you, Ben.
Right.
And they made the actors and actresses read the lyrics to the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. And I know it was a joke because I don't think any of them picked up on what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually put it to kind of more epic music. And it is, if lyrically, it's a pretty on-spot dedication to Tolkien's work. Okay. And then I guess the music that came from Mr. Nimoy made it a little goofier, maybe for children.
Right.
Which, again, The Hobbit is exactly what it's for.
Right.
When I first heard about it, and I know this is a tangent, but when I first heard about Leonard Nimoy singing a song about Bilbo Baggins, I didn't go out and find it right away, but I had this this very high standard for what it was, because I had been watching Star Trek, and Spock would at times play a harp and sing some kind of Vulcan tune, but it was very haunting.
Oh, wow.
And I assumed that is what that was. The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins would be some haunting tune that Leonard Nimoy sang. But that is not what it is. It is something much, much worse.
Yeah, much darker. And speaking of Star Trek, I figured I should let you know and the listeners, in case they're also Star Trek fans.
Star Trek Hobbit.
A friend of mine named Jordan Hoffman, who is a writer and has been writing about movies for years and years and years, way longer than I have, recently ranked all 695 episodes of Star Trek in every series of every Star Trek, every episode ever,
including Enterprise.
Yeah, including everything, the animated series, all of it. Oh
wow, those are actually really good if you check those out.
Yeah, and he 695 episodes, so he ranked them all and then wrote like a little blurb about each one. It is one of the most towering personal achievements I've ever seen as far as list making on the internet goes. So
now
check that out and reward that man's effort if you're a Star Trek fan. So sorry for that tangent, but man, that's crazy.
He's no longer with us, correct?
No,
he died after that task.
He survived the experience.
Oh wow, interesting.
I don't know how.
That's the real victory.
It really is, yeah.
Ben, we got to keep moving here.
Okay.
Holy, do you see that in the distance?
What is that?
He's coming up close. Oh god, it's one of those great ghoulish Nazgul. There's another one. There's another one.
Should probably call the Eagles.
They've got us surrounded. Ben, hurry up. Where can the podcasters find you before these guys take us down?
Twitter.com/BenPairs.
You can also find us on Twitter at the Fivecast. You can find us on Tumblr. iTunes is still broke. I don't know what to do. Tolkien Month is too awesome for iTunes to contain. Ben, I don't know how we're gonna get. While you pull out Sting, or Sting's cousin Stung, and of course I have Glamdrung. Yeah, Stang and Glamdrung. And let's see if we can battle out of this. We'll see you next week for more Tolkien Legendarium talk. Bye-bye.
All right, take 5.
Ben, wake up.
Oh.
Ben.
Tyler, where are we?
Based on my calculations and the position of Beetlejuice and the sun, we're in the depths of Mordor.
Uh-oh. Oh, man, I can't get out of these chains, man.
I know, they chained us up at the dark, ominous Sauron, and we're in his tower, the Baron door. There's orcs everywhere, dude. We didn't make it out of the Nazgul
Those
attack.
Guys are not messing around.
I know, we had Stang and Glamdrung, and it did not work.
Oh.
I'm really surprised they let me keep my podcasting equipment around my back.
Yeah, that is strange.
I'm really hoping that this might be our last Fivecast episode. ever, because I'm pretty sure they're either going to enslave us, or they're going to make us kill hobbits, or they're going to just, slit our throats and throw us into the fiery eye at the top of the tower.
Wow. Well, I mean, I guess the best we can hope for is that we turn into sort of like the Blues Brothers, the very end of the Blues Brothers, how they're like entertaining people in jail. Maybe maybe our podcast can entertain the rest of these poor shackled to these chains and then whatever the hell tower we're in.
Well, you know what? Where all this antagonism is coming from, don't you?
I don't know.
It's from your poor review of The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies, releasing this month to celebrate Tolkien Month.
Oh man,
this is all your fault.
Listen, I think
that's why you've been unconscious longer than me.
Yeah, I think for people, and I've said this before, but I think people who are just fans of Middle Earth and light fans of the movies, and if you like the first Hobbit movie, maybe you won't hate it. But anybody who's read the books or knows anything more about Tolkien's world, I think you're going to be really disappointed, and I just don't think they should have split it into 3 books, and this third movie sort of proves that. But yeah, I mean, Tyler,
that fourth movie's coming, dude. It's going to bring everything together.
Well, that's an interesting point you bring up, because this fourth movie, it's sort of it doesn't exist right now. There's no official talks of a fourth movie, but that's something that you and I have batted around a little bit in our travels here through Middle Earth.
In our imprisonment.
Yeah, and I guess since we are shackled up and we can't really move anywhere, this is the 5cast, so we might as well. What do you think? Do a top 5 list?
Yeah. I'm thinking based on your transition here. Which, by the way, excellent transition based on the abuse that you've been inflicted upon.
I am bleeding heavily from my head.
I don't want to show you, but your femur might be poking out a little bit.
Oh God, I can't look.
But maybe if we were in charge, if Peter Jackson tapped us on the shoulder and said, "Guys, it's your turn," what would be the movie we would make to celebrate Tolkien Month, to celebrate the Legendarium? I think top 5 movies that could be made.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever see these movies made, because obviously our death is upon us.
That's very imminent, I think.
But I think we can chit-chat about it for a while, and hopefully someone 1,000 years from now, into like the 7th age, picks up my podcasting equipment here. I hope no one ever drops a ring in a Mount Doom and destroys this tower. Otherwise, everything's for naught.
Yeah.
But hopefully we get out, or at least our last episode will get out. Top 5 Tolkien movies that could be made. Ben, do you, in your shackles, have a list that looks something like that?
I think I can barely reach my back pocket, which is where I keep the scrolls here. And yep, I got one right here.
I just broke the seal of my scroll with a toenail that's been growing for the last few years.
That is disgusting.
We've been in prison. It could have been a week to regular people, but in Tolkien's world, remember, it's like 10 years is like a day. Mm-hmm. So that toenail is it's about the size of a hobbit's sword.
Wow.
Or a man's knife.
Okay.
So Ben, number 5 Tolkien movie that could be made in your mind. What are you going with?
All right, I'm gonna go with a movie about. If you have listened to the previous episodes of the 5cast, especially last week's, this should be familiar to you.
Right up your alley.
I'm going to call back to my number 1 last week, which was, spoiler alert if you haven't listened to last week's episode yet, the top 5 creatures of Middle Earth, and my number 1 was the troll purse.
Yes.
A ridiculous creature
hilarious
that nobody
thing.
Really seems to know jack shit about, to be honest with you. But I think I'm gonna go with an origin story about the first troll purse.
Okay.
And how that thing came to be. Apparently it's immortal, so I want to know what adventures that thing has experienced throughout its life, which trolls it's served, what it's housed within its loins, as far as treasure and items that people have stowed in it, and just maybe let's get a look at Middle Earth from the perspective of the troll purse and see what this thing, gives some characterization to it.
Maybe this purse started out at like a Macy's downtown store.
Yeah.
And the movie stars Isla Fisher. as well as
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel. Oh, too. So they are almost like the Bridesmaids or whatever that fucking
Yep.
movie was called, where they were fighting each other to buy this troll purse.
Yeah, Bride Wars. Yeah.
Yeah, Bride Wars. And then the lady from the Devil Wears Prada, the old lady.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep is the designer who created the troll purse. So now we finally can fill out that wiki entry, one wiki to rule them all, of course, where the Meryl Streep, creates the troll purse, and then Rachel McAdams and Isla Fisher continue like it's such a obtainable item, like everybody wants it.
Yeah.
That they fight about it, and then somehow, I'm not really sure yet, I'll have to go to the scripting room,
Yeah.
they end up in Middle Earth.
Yeah, and that's the fashion world. It takes the fashion world by storm. So.
What title are you going with on this one, Ben?
Jeez, a title? You're putting me on the spot here.
Troll person.
Maybe one purse to rule them all. I don't know.
One purse to rule them all. That's a good one.
Uh,
on the troll purse, like an entry chapter into one of Tolkien's like posthumous works, like on troll purses.
Yeah.
It all started when Meryl Streep worked at Macy's. Women be shopping. That's awesome, Ben. Will there be trolls? Who's gonna play the trolls? I'm saying Richard Lewis plays a troll.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Maybe Gilbert Gottfried is one. I
Gilbert
think.
Godfrey, is he dead? He's alive, right?
He's still alive. Yeah.
All right, and then I'm gonna say, let's see, Dick Van Dyke. Just to round it out.
Still alive too.
Yeah. So trolls enter the real world, steal the troll purse, and then I guess 3 or 4 more movies later, it gets back to Middle Earth.
Yep, I like it.
Yeah. My number 5 is based on one of the creatures we mentioned last week as well, Ben.
Okay.
I'm gonna call this one the Akelomoth, or There and Back Again, a Moth's Tale, where one of the creatures that saved Middle Earth, saved the Tolkien universe, is Herbert the Moth.
Herbert, that's right. I was trying to remember what his name was.
Yeah, his origin story is awesome. Like, if you think this Jackson sixology is cool, just wait till we get to the Herbert the Moth sixology, all starting with Akelomoth. There and Back Again, a Moth's Tale, and you're gonna think it's directed towards children, but it's not, because the Moth's family is slaughtered in like the first 5 minutes.
Oh wow!
And so children, like, we've had a few pre-screenings, I guess, and these children, it's like when Optimus Prime died in the Transformers movie in the 80s. Like, children were like just rushing out of the theater, just bawling their eyes out. Angry letters came in from parents. So I realized, okay, Herbert the Moth's family still has to die. I mean, it's a necessary thing. It's almost like Batman Begins, except I'm going places where Christopher Nolan wish he could.
Right.
And so Herbert the Moth, he finds Gandalf on top of the tower in Isengard, and Ben, you brought up an interesting point. Did Herbert make it all the way to the Eagles, or did he have to stop, reproduce, and send his offspring on his mission? Because moths, I'm going to say their lifespan is maybe 10 days. I'm not really sure.
Yep.
We know the eagles are, of course, immortal, but there wasn't a wiki for moths, and which there should be. And, of course, because there was no wiki page, there was no lifespan. So I'm going to assume that maybe 4 or 5 generations of the moths had to be created to get to the eagles and then come back for Gandalf. And that's the 6 movies. Each movie is a generation of Herbert the Moth.
I like the idea of Herbert being almost like a Greek mythological figure, or I think I want to say, man, I should know this based on with my Greek and Roman knowledge. It just isn't what it used to. But I think Nike, the person, was the guy who ran, or maybe it was somebody named Marathon. Yeah, the guy who
ran the 26 miles.
Yeah, so he.
Oh no, Marathon was the city. Someone
Okay,
ran
yeah,
the
I
marathon,
want to say
right?
maybe it was Nike, the guy who
Maybe.
ran there. I don't know. But anyway, somebody ran a full marathon to deliver a message and
The
just
first
died.
marathon.
Like, yeah, his heart exploded like as soon as he delivered the message. I feel
Yes.
like that's how Herbert should go out. Like
Okay.
maybe he sires a few extra moths on the way,
Right.
but then when he finally, furiously reaches his destination, he's able to
Yeah.
deliver the message, complete his mission, and then he goes out
Awesome.
with a bang.
Oh, there's going to be like a battle of two armies towards the end where it's the moths versus the troll purses
Yeah.
because the moths keep trying to pick them up and throw them, but the troll purses kept like consuming them into the troll purse void that they
Oh
possess.
man. Yeah. What
Um,
is in there? We'll never know.
yeah, the moths know. It's mostly moths. So yeah, that's my number 5, a ridiculous pick, not based on any of Tolkien's writings yet. Perhaps again, coming back from the dead, writing that sixology for the moths. Remember the moths.
Okay.
Hashtag. Ben, the rest of mine are actually pretty legitimate. So I'm hoping you have some goofy ones. Number
Well,
4. Number 4.
yeah. My number 4 is a movie about Elrond.
Okay.
And it's
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, it's an indie movie about him
Okay.
that, in the vein of 500 Days of Summer, skips through random days in his life, but it skips over a time span of 1,000 years.
Okay.
So it's just sort of, you see lovers of his that just die within,
Oh, no.
years, and it bounces all over the place. It's a really it's a wide spanning tale, decades and hundreds of years, but it also sort of gives you a good look at how Elrond stays the same, how he changes during that time. It's a real character study, and it
Sounds boring.
it's super boring, definitely boring.
How
But
many movies are you seeing in this franchise? So-
just one in this
Oh,
one.
just the one?
This is just a straight up Sundance indie movie.
About 9.5 hours long.
A lot of no, only let's say 2.5, where it's
Okay.
like way too long for what kind of movie it is. But it's got like a somebody who clearly thinks it's way more important than it actually is too. I think a movie about Elrond, just because he lives so long and is probably taken part in some pretty excellent adventures that we haven't seen. Maybe we'll get a little snippet of those in there, but probably not, because the budget isn't really that big, because it's
No.
an indie movie. So it'll probably just be a lot of him sitting around talking, trying to hit on girls, and we'll see how that goes.
And because the money's so low, we actually can't get the original actor to play Elrond, who was of course famous for playing V for Vendetta and Mr. Anderson.
Agent Smith.
That guy.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson. That's what he would say. Sorry. Mr. Anderson. So we're actually going to have to go with somebody else on this, and it's going to be the guy who plays Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield. Okay, I can see that. I can totally
Indie heartthrob, because he's going to be out of work soon.
Yeah.
Because Ben, did you hear these 5cast emails were leaked because of the Sony hacking?
Oh no.
So our deal with Sony is totally gone now. It's totally over. They heard me. They heard my my Words with Friends chat box message about the CEO, and they did not care for it.
Okay, well that is.
So Andrew Garfield plays Elrond.
Yep.
Melissa McCarthy is Arwen. Elrond's dad will actually get to his father, which is an interesting story, but that won't be part of this film.
Oh, okay.
So
I was going to say that could be played by John Travolta.
Only the really boring parts of Elrond's life are featured at this Sundance Film Festival, as most Sundance films are. There's no War of the Last Alliance. There's no War of the Rings. There's mostly just him kind of milling around in Rivendell.
Yeah. A lot
like you
of
said,
malaise and angst.
A lot of, like you said, his girlfriend's like leaving to go west, and he's like, fucking Arwen won't leave with me. I gotta stay here longer and longer. And so, I like it.
Yep.
So we're looking at the title. The working title right now is Elrond, 5,000 Days of Summer?
Yeah, I like it. 5,000 Days of Elrond.
There we go. I like it. Nice. My number 4 is based on something that I haven't read yet, but looking through the contents of Unfinished Tales, which was published in 1980, obviously posthumously. In part 3, there's one section called Cirion and Earl and the Friendship of Gondor and Rohan.
Oh.
Now, Ben, you said a few weeks ago in this Legendarium podcast that Rohan can go F itself.
Yeah, basically.
So I'm interested in seeing who this Cirion and Earl is and how a friendship between Gondor and Rohan work, because we know in the movies that they don't really care for each other. I guess Rohan is expecting Gondor to show up at some point, or vice versa, and nothing really happens until like the very, very last minute after like half their population has been wiped out by orc.
Yeah.
So I want to go back almost like a Sundance Film Festival thing, except this one's what would a 9 movie nineology?
Jeez, is that a septology? I don't know.
A septology I think is 7, so 9. Let's see, sept, octology, neptology maybe.
Sure, yeah, let's go with that.
And Cirion and Earl, this is like Pete and Pete, man.
Are they like the Timon and Pumbaa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. They start with very, 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 very meager origins. They're both farm boys. They're from a different planet. It's basically Batman and Superman.
Okay.
Yeah. And Gondor is, of course, run by Earl. I don't know if that's true. Rohan's run by Cirion. Also don't know if that's true. And it's more like Fox and the Hound. It's like a lot of movies, Ben.
Well, this is interesting.
I think there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say here.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring this up because my number 3 is a movie about the rise and fall of Gondor.
Okay.
And I think maybe we're looking at what we have here is the opportunity for a crossover.
Well, yeah. Here you go. Go ahead. You got
at least one. So I'm not sure how far we want to take this franchise, but yeah, I just feel like instead of making a human or an orc or an elf a character, let's make Gondor the character.
The kingdom, huh?
Yeah, and then just sort of it's similar to the way that the Elrond 5,000 Days of Elrond jumps around in time. But sort of follows this one guy. Maybe this is just a more linear exploration of Gondor's founding, its height, its fall, and what happens to it in the post Lord of the Rings trilogy era. Spanning however long it existed, and I think there's some good places for Timon and Pumbaa to roll in there.
Well, obviously we would call it Ford of the Rings because F-O-U-R-D. That would be the movie that would take place after the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It would be the 4th installment, hence the Ford of the Rings.
Right.
And then so movies 1 through 9 are the friendship of Gondor and Rohan, and then 10 through 12 will be the rise and fall of Gondor.
Okay.
And then, 13 through 97 will be everything else.
Yeah, I like the idea of the 10th movie starting, like going back to the beginning. I think that's a good amount of time. It takes 9 full movies to really get your bearings, and then the 10th one sort of goes back and fills.
You really settle in after that 18th hour. Yeah. So yeah, my number 3. What would we call this? So this would be Ford of the Rings. Would be the movie that comes after all this.
Right.
Because movies like 13, 14, and 15 are Lord of the Rings. And then movie 16 is Ford of the Rings.
Right. What were those guys' names again? The two?
Cirion and Earl.
Yeah.
The E-O-R-L. Orlando Bloom. Yeah. Eeyore. So maybe it's more like Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore. Maybe that's the I'm just trying to think of famous pairs.
Yeah, maybe it's just my name is Earl.
Yeah, that could work too.
Or
Or just Earl TV. Wasn't that a movie at some point?
Ed TV.
Oh, Ed TV. Well, this is Earl TV.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the character of Gondor actually speaks. He's like Rockbiter from the Neverending Story.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, that's another thing we can throw in there.
All right.
He rides around on a rock bike and everything. My number 3 is going to go to a similar film where Tom Hanks played Walt Disney,
Oh, okay.
and that's Saving Mr. Banks.
Yes.
Or should I say Shaving Mr. Banks?
E.
I never did get to Photoshop that.
Triple X parody.
This is The Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. So there's a book that came out in 1981 that published, I guess, a bunch of 354 letters between October 1914 and August 1973, 4 days before his death.
Wow.
A bunch of letters collected. The categories are letters to his children, letters about being a professor of Anglo-Saxon something, letters to his publisher, and then letters about Middle-earth. So I think there's a movie here, again, maybe appearing at that film festival in Paris, where Kate Upton is my date, and we walk the red carpet, and then we have to kind of get to each other before the movie's over.
Sure. I'll allow your
I'll allow it.
fantasy to play
Listen,
out.
Ben, I'm about to die. I'm hanging by a thread life-wise. I'm also hanging by a chain here. I can dream. A man can dream.
Indeed.
You've seen her in those Game of War ads, haven't you? Dressed up as Athena?
Yeah.
She'd fit in great here in Tolkien's Legendarium.
I think she probably would. So Clint Howard plays J.R.R.
J.R.R. of course. The great
Okay.
Clint Howard. Directed not by Ron Howard, but directed by Clint Howard as well. So he stars, edits, produces, and directs Shaving Mr. Tolkien.
Oh,
And
wow.
this is going to be great because it harkens back to a simpler time when Tolkien was in the army. He was in World War I. He was a teacher. He was a really old guy writing letters. It's got all the high octane excitement you need.
It sounds like an Oscar bait movie.
It is totally Oscar bait. There's little to no Middle-earth discussion at all, even though a whole section of the book is dedicated to it. It's all about the melodrama. It's all about the shitty acting and directing and all that bullshit that they try to pander for at the Academy. The Academy will love this.
Yeah, his wife has to, give him sponge baths because he's too busy writing letters to bathe himself.
Oh, that's a pivotal scene. It opens and closes with a bath scene.
Okay.
So you know how pivotal that is.
And you see full-on Clint Howard ass because it's a brave performance.
Yeah, he lifts himself slowly out of the tub. And so open, close, not only a bath scene, but an ass scene.
Nice.
So yeah, expect that. Let's see, that's fall, winter of 2022.
Okay. All right.
It comes out right like the day after that part 2 of the Infinity Wars.
Yep.
Comes out the day after because fuck it, we don't
programming.
Yeah, it comes out on a Saturday. It's like fuck it, we don't need 3 days to succeed. We just need 2. So look out for that. The letters, or it's based on the book The Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. It's called Shaving Mr. Tolkien. Because his wife not only bathes him, she also shaves him.
Yeah, that's got Oscar written all over it.
Ben, number 2.
All right, my number 2 is the real ending to the story of Frodo Baggins.
Oh.
So this is, we're talking about, I think in one of the previous episodes, how the end of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies sort of skip over a period where Frodo and Merry and Pippin return to the Shire, and it's being run by Saruman, and there's this whole sort of weird like a battle that goes on, and Frodo has to like organize. He becomes the deputy mayor of the Shire. It's all this is real. This is like real stuff, and I feel like that should be covered in a movie. And I was thinking Ford of the Rings, but that name has already been taken.
Were you really gonna say that?
No, but it sounds like a good one that would also
okay.
fit for this.
Well, Ford of the Rings is broken into 5 to 6 films.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you could ring it in
we
there.
can just slip this one in. Yeah. Okay.
And it's also like in The Watchmen, where there was that pirate comic that they were reading. Like it can be like that, where it could be like spliced into across 6 films.
I like it. Yeah. So Ford of the Rings, The Fall of the House of Frodo, or something like that.
There you go.
And yeah, so it's basically just about what happens in the battle. What's that battle called? It's the Battle of Bywater.
The battle in the Shire. I thought you meant the War of the Ring.
Yeah, at the end, there's some guy named Sharky who is later revealed to be Saruman, who
Hey guys, I'm Sharky. Hey, where's my friend Jet?
yeah, basically.
Well, it's interesting. Your
And
number two is about Frodo's last days.
okay.
Mine is actually about Bilbo's last days.
Oh,
It's
all right.
called Bilbo's Last Song, which is actually a poem written by Mr. Tolkien. And let me just preface this by saying that we have fun on this podcast. We are
We
not.
do.
We are hopefully not sullying the name of the Tolkien estate or the man himself. We're having some fun,
Not too much.
a little humor. We're not trying to throw his face and curb stomp him in the mud or anything like that.
Oh,
That would be a little egregious.
yeah.
It was a poem that Tolkien himself gave to his secretary in 1966. It was never published in the author's lifetime, but it has been published since, and they've set music to it. The poem is sung by Bilbo at the Grey Havens, which is the last place, I guess, you can go before going into the Undying Lands or dying, I don't know, as he prepares to leave Middle-earth forever. Chronologically, is placed at the very end of the Return of the King,
Yep.
although it was written later than the books and was never included.
Okay.
So, a very interesting tale here. I kind of want to read a little bit of it, but I want you to discover it for yourself. And I myself think it's very interesting that you have Frodo's last days as well as I have Bilbo's, and I think those combined together would
Yeah,
make
there's another.
would make a great like 20 film series.
Sorry. Yeah. There's a. Yeah, it's a good point because especially with the ending of the Frodo movie, I envisioned him going off to the Undying Lands as depicted in
Return of the King.
Return of the King, and then yeah, the movie sort of picks up from there. Like what are the Undying Lands? What does that look like? Yeah, I figured what the hell? This is fictional Hollywood we're talking about, or
Yep.
Hollywood adapting this fictional material. So if it's the Hollywood that we know, they are never one to shy away from squeezing every last drop out of every story, any story with name recognition in any capacity. So
Yes. So
yeah.
there will be successful films with the what did you say? Ford of the Rings, The Rise and Fall of Frodo, or whatever it was.
Yep, the
And then-
Fall of the House of Frodo.
Fall of the House of Frodo, and then Ford of the Rings 2, Bilbo's Last Song.
Yep.
Ford of the Rings 3, Sam Gamgee's back.
Okay.
Ford of the Rings 4, and the number 4 replaces the word for in Ford of the Rings.
Gamgee's got his groove back.
Gamgee's got his groove. How Gamgee's got his groove back.
Nice.
Because things with Rosie weren't really working out. You know, Sam becomes mayor of Hobbiton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so deputy mayor for Frodo, and then actual mayor for Sam.
I like it.
Nice. Ben, I think this might be my final breath. I don't know what death is like, but I'm assuming that I have maybe 3 to 4 breaths left.
Okay, well,
Let's
take
try
a
to-
deep one, and I'll try to talk quickly here.
Number 1.
my
Oh,
number
I just
one-
wasted one. Oh, God.
Oh no, it may be the same as your number one. I don't know. But a Gandalf origin story, I think.
Ooh, I wish I
is-
would have.
Is something that I think a lot of people would pay to see. You got the guy who plays Littlefinger, Baelish from Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
as young Gandalf.
Okay.
Back
So he talks out of the side of his mouth the whole time.
Yeah, basically, and he's he's like 50 instead of however old Gandalf is.
Right.
And it's him just it's like Casino Royale where Bond gets his license to kill. It's Gandalf getting his wizard license basically, and
License to whiz.
yeah, he's wizarding all over the place. So yeah, and all the adventures. Gandalf didn't become gray through just old age. He's seen some shit, man.
Yeah.
So that's what this movie is about. It's he survives, so that sort of takes away a little bit of the drama.
Sure.
But at the same time, he's also a wizard. And as seen in Fellowship of the Ring and maybe the beginning of Two Towers, I think that Balrog kills him, and then he is resurrected as Gandalf the White. So
Yes.
he can die, and then maybe
Oh,
Gandalf the
multiple
Grey
times.
is actually a resurrected form of the original guy. So we don't really know.
So we started out as like Gandalf the yellow, or Gandalf the orange, or Gandalf
Sure,
the
yeah,
blue,
yeah,
and turns
some
into
bright
gray.
color, and
Yeah,
then because he's his family was killed, or he had to murder a child or something to like save a kingdom or
right.
something serious and dark and you know gritty. That sounds like something that Hollywood would do. So
Yeah. So obviously Clint Howard reprises his role.
that's
Wait,
Tolkien.
as Tolkien, and then Christian Bale as Saruman,
And it's like
obviously.
those old Disney cartoons where it's like the Walt Disney is there and he's drawing on a
Yeah.
pad, and then the animated creature comes to life and like jumps out and starts talking to him. So that's how Clint Howard gets involved as
Okay.
Tolkien. He's
Okay.
writing it, and then the words form a person, and then the guy who
Whoa.
plays Littlefinger jumps out of the book at him, and then they have
Oh,
conversation.
it's Gandalf the Blue.
Yeah.
Gandalf the robin's egg.
Yes.
That's a color. Nice. Mine is actually an origin story for Arendelle, who is Elrond's dad. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
And he also he's a very interesting character because he's had a long trek through Middle Earth. I think he's half man, half elf.
Okay.
And he was basically a guy who thought that Morgoth was getting way out of control, which he was.
Mm-hmm.
So he
All that
travels.
throat stomping.
Yeah, he goes and he finds a boat and he goes across the ocean. The first mortal to ever do it reaches the Undying Lands, and he's like, guys, he's talking to the gods basically. He goes, guys, we need you out there. Tag in, bring the hurt. Let's put Morgoth to sleep. Blah blah blah. And the gods are like, okay, I guess since you had the balls to walk right up to us, even though we told you never come here, we'll help you out, but you can't leave. You can't ever leave this place. And he goes, ah, shit. And he goes, all right, we'll bring your wife too. So he's like, okay, sweet, I get some tail. It's like he can't, stay celibate all of his undying days.
Yeah.
So his wife turns into a bird. She follows him across the ocean. She almost dies. So there's, movie 2 or 4 right there.
Yeah.
And then there's a dragon at some point that he defeats. So he's very much like Thurin, who defeated the one of the first dragons of Morgoth's.
Okay.
With Gurthang, his trusty blade.
Yeah.
It ain't no Gurthang a couple of episodes ago, if you were looking to talk about top 5 blades of Middle Earth. Yeah. And then he gets to keep his ship that took him across the ocean. He gets to basically, the gods are like, all right, we'll give you like basically an Arendelle mobile. And he gets to wear one of the finest gems of Tolkien's Legendarium while he captains his ship across the sky.
Oh, I like that.
And you can see his star every so often. So he's got a long history, and that's, again, if not an octology, definitely a nineology.
Yeah, sounds like some excellent fodder for a film series.
Yes. He's also, he's Elrond's dad, so it would be a prequel to 5,000 Days of Elrond.
Right.
The 9 movies and then the 1 Sundance film. He's
this
also
is such a complicated timeline we've created.
He's the gods also actually let him pick whether or not he wanted to live forever or die.
Oh.
So because he's half man, half elf, and he was like, well, I'd like to be a man because he actually comes from men, the race of men, but his wife is an elf.
Uh-oh.
And she was going to live forever. And he's like, I guess I'll stick around.
Yeah.
And so Elrond, I guess, because his entire family, his entire line gets to pick man or elf, whether they're going to die immortal or live forever. So Elrond got to pick, and so I guess his daughter Arwen got to pick, and she chose poorly because she chose to stick with Aragorn, who died like 30 years later.
Yeah.
And she died of a broken heart, allegedly. And then the stories end. Tolkien had like 1 or 2 pages of a sequel of I think titled Ford of the Rings, and but he didn't get to finish it.
Okay, well,
So we'll leave it right there.
I think we've done a tremendous job of filling in everything that he would have wanted to be filled in.
Well, that's an interesting point that you make, Ben, because apparently J.R.R. Tolkien never wanted his books to be turned into a movie.
Except for the ones that we just created.
Of course. And looking at an interview from 1968, an interview with The Telegraph, I believe, Tolkien receives innumerable offers for film rights, musical comedy rights, TV rights, puppetry rights. A jigsaw puzzle company has asked permission to produce a Lord of the Rings puzzle. A soap maker to soap sculpt the ring characters.
Wow.
Tolkien worshippers are outraged by these crass approaches, which already I guarantee you're going to love this episode.
Yep.
Please, wrote a 17-year-old girl, don't let them make a movie out of your Lord of the Rings trilogy. It would be like putting Disneyland into the Grand Canyon. Ouch. When asked how Tolkien... he feels strongly that the ring should not be filmed. You can't cramp narrative into dramatic form. Peter Jackson said otherwise. It would be easier to film the Odyssey. Much less happens in it, only a few storms. So Tolkien, I think, would really love the work that we did.
Absolutely.
Based on this small paragraph from this interview.
Yeah, it sounds like he would have no problems whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, Disneyland, the Grand Canyon, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
So, Ben, did you hear that?
There
was a low rumble.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there was another shockwave. This is like a earthquake.
Oh.
All the orcs are running away.
Oh, wait. Tyler, it looks like our chains have come loose from the wall.
Yeah, but it feels like this tower's about to collapse.
We better get out of here.
I think someone just dropped a damn ring in fucking Mount Doom.
Uh-oh.
And this whole place is going to shit.
We gotta book it.
We gotta book it fast, Ben. Before we leave, my podcast equipment I don't think is gonna make this trek.
Uh-oh.
Tell the listeners where they can find you on the internet.
Twitter.com/BenPairs.
You can find us on Twitter, of course. You can find us on Tumblr. Maybe iTunes. I don't know. Who cares? And we might see you next time. I don't know. If we do, it'll be another Tolkien-based episode because why not do 5 weeks?
It's December.
If we thought 4 weeks was too much, we're going 5. And so yeah, if we make it out, you'll see us next time. If an episode doesn't pop up, you'll know we're dead. Bye-bye. Take 5.
Take 5.
I saw the light fade from the sky. On the wind I heard a sigh.
Ben, it's finally nice to kick your feet up, take off some boots, and relax for once. Welcome to the Grey Havens.
Yes, thank you, Tyler. I am excited to not be tortured anymore.
Yeah, it's really nice not to be tortured.
Yeah.
CIA. Well, those politics don't apply here in Middle Earth, where we still, for the 5th week in real world time, we've been here in Middle Earth, and I think, Ben, it's time to go.
I think you're right.
But not before we do one more exclusive episode to Tolkien Month, with the release, of course, of the Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. More like Battle of the Five Cast Armies, am I right? Is that going to be the name of this episode?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's do it. Ring it out.
We're here at the Grey Havens, which is a little kind of town on the sea, the Great Sea, and it's where the elves travel to, by boat to the Undying Lands, which is basically heaven. And I saw that we were offered some cider, some elven cider, by the good shipwright Sirdan. Did you see this guy?
I did, and his cider is delicious.
It is so delicious. It sparkles and whatnot, just much like elven things do.
Yep.
And in my research, he's apparently one of the rare bearded elves. I don't know if you read that up on One Wiki to Rule Them All.
I did not, but yeah, most of the elves that I'm familiar with are fresh-faced for sure.
Which is interesting because as I read a lot of Tolkien books, most elves were fat and bearded in my mind, and then apparently they don't look like that at all. They're very thin and beautiful.
You're thinking of dwarf, Tyler.
No, both the dwarves and the elves would have beard growing contests in my mind. So,
An ultra manly game.
yeah, an ultra manly imagination for sure. But I mean, just seeing that bearded elf of Círdan, it makes me wonder, Ben. Tolkien is known for his elves. He has a huge love for the elves. Maybe we talk top 5 elves before the ship comes in?
I think that's a
Before
good
our
idea.
literal and figurative ship comes in?
Yeah.
Of course, we're gonna cross the great seas back to the real world, back to our normal lives, back to our jobs. Because Middle Earth, man, 5 weeks here, whew,
Hell of a vacation.
feels a hell of a vacation. Ben, do you have a list in a scroll? Maybe you found that features top 5 Tolkien elves.
I do, yeah.
So this is top 5 elves from the Tolkien Legendarium. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure you've been clamoring for this episode, folks.
Oh yeah.
Ben, number 5.
People have been waiting for it. So yeah, it's my understanding that Tolkien was actually writing about elves long before he wrote The Hobbit. Even.
Oh yeah.
So he had been churning out those elf stories for
I
a
want
long
to say around the year 17.
1917.
1917 AD.
But yeah, my number 5. Let's go ahead and crack this thing off. So mine is Celeborn,
Okay.
who is the elven husband of Galadriel.
Okay.
I feel like this dude gets no love. He's barely
at all.
mentioned. I think he appeared in the Lord of the Rings
Sure did.
films, but I guess he just showed up in Return of the King.
Yeah.
And he boards a ship with Galadriel, Elrond, Gandalf, Bilbo, and Frodo
Yeah,
to
the ring bearers.
Valinor, he's basically standing where we're standing right now, Tyler.
He
Um,
or has he not stood here yet? We don't know what time period we're at.
Good point. But yeah, that's like all that he does, and I feel like Galadriel, pretty ridiculous character.
Yeah, we're going to talk about her.
Okay. Yeah.
So
well,
I don't know if she's on your list or not. But
she's not on my list, but
okay, we're definitely going to talk about her.
okay. So I just feel like the guy, the man who has to put up, or I guess technically he's not a man, but
He's an elf king.
the male elf, yeah, who has to put up with Galadriel, deserves a little bit of props. So that's what I'm doing with my number 5, giving it up for Celeborn.
Did you check the pronunciation of that playa?
Yeah, a hard
Okay,
C is in
okay.
cat, it says.
Because I've always called him Celeborn, but I'm sure you've researched this, so that's why I asked.
Extensive research, and apparently, here's a little
Hard C like a cat.
Yes, a little piece of extra trivia for you.
Celeborn trivia, folks. Here we go.
In Ralph Bakshi's animated The Lord of the Rings,
Yes, I want to watch it so bad.
Celeborn was actually pronounced Celeborn
Ooh.
incorrectly. So maybe that's where
Go get him, Bashki.
you got your pronunciation from. So
I remember that checking that out as a kid. It was a copy at the library, VHS, of course. Man, could not make it through that beast, and I think I almost got through it too. Like I was like an hour and 45 minutes. Like I was only 15 minutes away from the end.
Oh,
which
wow.
I didn't realize at the time. I thought it was all 3 books.
Yeah.
But I didn't find out until later that it was only 2. I guess the first 2. And so, yeah, I didn't make it through that. But I thought it was really good animation, so I want to check it out again on Blu-ray. So if somebody wants to send us that as a viewing copy, please do.
Sure. Yeah.
Our address is here at Linden.
Unknown.
So Hearts Unknown in Middle Earth.
Should be really easy to track us down.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one Grey Havens in all of Middle Earth, so, I mean, Nice pick, Ben. Celeborn. Does he wear antlers of any kind? Is he anything like Turiel from Battle of the Five Armies?
I haven't been able to find much about his, what he adorned himself with, but let's see. I guess they
Whatever
have silver.
Galadriel allowed him to adorn himself with, am I right?
Yeah, she seems pretty crazy. We'll talk about her, but yeah, I think he had silver hair, so that's something.
Ooh, that's pretty cool. He's son of Magneto.
Yeah.
My number 5 is going with an elf lady, an elf woman. She's pretty good looking, I'd say. I mean, Aragorn thought she was. My number 5 is Arwen Evanstar, I guess, if you want to go last name. She's definitely the daughter of Elrond, who is descended from half elves, half man marriages. And Elrond, unlike his brother, who I think chose the man life, Elrond took the elven life, so he got to live forever.
Yep.
And I like the dynamic between these two guys, father and daughter, because it's a really touching moment in the Lord of the Rings trilogy where Arwen wants to stay with Aragorn even though he's gone off to war.
Yes.
And Elrond's like, well, no, I really want you to go to the Undying Lands with me. And she's like, no, I gotta stay here. I'm in love, Dad. And he's like, well, don't you love me? And she's like, well, of course I do. And then she decides to go, but then decides and doubles back. Not a happy, well, I guess kind of a happy ending for her. She does eventually marry Aragorn, but then Aragorn dies, and then she dies of a broken heart. But
right.
Arwen, a very interesting character in the larger Legendarium.
Yep.
I don't know how old she is. Let's check here. She was born in the year. There's that Liv Tyler. That's what I'm talking about. One wiki to rule them all. Plenty of photos. She was born in the Third Age, 241. So in the year 241 of the Third Age, she lived, and I guess died in the year 121 of the Fourth Age.
Oh,
she was 2,901 years old. So Aragorn was the opposite of a cradle robber.
Yep.
The cougar catcher, I guess.
I mean, I think.
What animal does that woman emulate once you reach 2,000 years? Is it like just like the bones of a Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Maybe a dust bunny.
A dust bunny. It's perfect. Yeah. So catch that dust bunny out, Aragorn, son of Arathorn. So that's my number 5. Any thoughts on Arwen?
I'm a big fan of Arwen.
All right. Is it because she's technically the son of Steven Tyler? Or technically the daughter of Steven Tyler?
Son.
I joke about that a lot. I was like, man, I'd really like to, marry or date Liv Tyler. And I go, and it's totally not because she's the daughter of famous frontman for Aerosmith. It's totally not that.
Yeah, I mean, those Thanksgiving meals would have to be pretty interesting, I think.
Can you request songs for people to sing during the meal? He wouldn't even get a chance to eat. I would just be like, all right, let's go with Crying. Let's go with, Dreams, or whatever the fucking song's called. That's Van Halen song. I requested a Van Halen song. He's really going to be upset.
But then I just like picturing Steven Tyler at Thanksgiving dinner, sitting there chowing down on some turkey, and then all of a sudden, you slide up from right behind him, over his shoulder, just just mouthing Aerosmith guitar riffs in his ear.
Girl, when I met you, I was F-I-N-E fine.
Help me out, Steven. Take it now.
And he's just mawing a turkey leg. He's like, fuck you. That's my number 5, Ben. Where are we? Number 4?
Yep, number 4.
Right. Number 4, Ben.
My number 4 is Celebrimbor.
Ooh, another hard C.
Yes, the maker of the Rings of Power.
Wow, nice pull. Nice.
Yes. Back in the Second Age, I guess he was rocking it out in Eregion. I have no idea how to pronounce these elvish realms, but. Found himself embroiled in a brotherhood of jewelsmiths, as one does, and
it's hard not to fall into that.
Basically, and decided that he was gonna, learn the ways of the jewelsmiths. And actually, I feel bad for this guy, which is why he's got my number 4 spot.
Right.
All he wanted to do was learn a trade, Tyler. He just wanted a job. He put in the work. He started from the bottom. He's working at the equivalent of the mailroom in corporate America here, and what happens?
Jewelsmith shop.
Yeah, basically, and what happens is the freaking unexpected Vanya visitor Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, shows up. Oh wow, what luck! And he claims that he's been sent by the Valar to share wisdom and skills in ring and jewel making for the benefit of all Middle Earth.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yes, and you should, because it was freaking Dark Lord Sauron himself in disguise.
What an asshole.
Basically leading the Smiths into creating the Rings of Power.
Right.
Luckily, though, without Sauron's knowledge, he creates the 3 rings for the elves, and we've gone through this in previous episodes about.
But for those of you that haven't listened, let's go ahead and run it off. The Rings of Power, there were many, but all that were left were the 3 and the 7 and the 9, right?
Yes, I think.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
So the 7 that went to the dwarves, Sauron's magic didn't work on them. They just wanted more gold.
I think that's correct.
The 9 that went to men actually did work, and Sauron got to control them.
Yeah.
And the 3 that went to the elves, which you're about to speak on, did nothing. The elves were stronger than Sauron's pull.
Yeah, basically. So Sauron, he tried desperately, but then the elves basically caught on to his game. They realized that if they wore them, then Sauron could sort of have power over them, and so they just did the simple thing of not wearing them.
Yeah, that was smart.
Yeah, pretty great. And I got to give props again, Celebrimbor. He basically he was tortured and he was killed basically. He didn't give it up though. He was tortured to try to find the location of the 3 Rings of Power. Sauron really wanted to know where those were, and he wouldn't give it up, and he died. Man, this guy.
So he rickrolled Sauron. He Rick Astley'd Sauron and said, "I'm not going to give this up."
Yes, that is correct. Never.
Do you think that's where the roots of the song come from?
I feel like Rick Astley was a big Tolkien fan, so I'm gonna say the classic song "Never Gonna Give You Up" directly inspired by the tales of Celebrimbor.
And of course, we know Celebrimbor's final words were "Never gonna give," and then just dead.
Yes.
I love
the terrific breakdown in the Astley song.
I love the story of the Rings of Power, but there's very little on them. But I mean, I read the whole Silmarillion waiting for the rings to show up, and they don't show up till the very end when Celebrimbor makes an appearance. But again, we can't give him too much shit because Sauron tricked him into making the rings.
Yeah.
And then of course tortured him. Yeah, Sauron was fair looking for a very long time. He could shapeshift basically. So we've seen him as a vampire, we've seen him as a werewolf, we've seen him as that dark armored thing. Yeah. But for a while he would trick the elves basically by looking like one of them, like white hair and nice. He is a trickster though. He's very Loki-ish if you want to go as far back as Norse mythology.
Indeed.
My number 4, Ben, if you're ready.
I am.
I like your number 4. That's a deep haul, my friend. I got another deep haul for you. His name is Fëanor. I think I'm saying this right. Fëanor. There's a little 2 dots, I think, somewhere on there.
Okay.
An umlaut. Is that what those are called?
I think so.
He actually, much like Celebrimbor, forged great treasures. He is from the very, very early elvish families. He is the son of Finwë. If you want a little history here, Ben, there's the gods, the Valar, right?
Yep. And
then there were other children that woke up later, and elves were one of the children that woke up in Middle-earth. And they woke up in a place called Cuinvianin, which is way, way, way far away from the Undying Lands. So if you think about it, it's like the Undying Lands is like North America, and Cuinvianin is like Australia, and the world is flat.
Okay.
It's not globish.
Yeah.
So it is a huge trek from Cuinvianin to the Undying Lands. Well, anyway, the elves wake up way over here on the far side of Middle-earth, and they're like, oh man, what is going on here? Like, there's no sun or moon yet. It's just dark. So all they have are like, the stars to see themselves with. And so a god comes by. He's very much like I don't know, maybe like a Hermes kind of god where he travels real fast. Maybe like a Hercules kind of character, very manly. He likes to travel around Middle-earth, and he finds the elves, and he's like, holy shit, it's the elves, because there was word that these guys would wake up eventually. And Orome is his name. He comes by him, and he's like, oh, guys, you gotta come to Valinor. It's like the best place ever. He's like, Undying Lands, it's awesome. We got 2 trees over here. It's our sun and moon. Boom, boom, boom. And some of the elves are like, we've been tricked before, because I think Morgoth has been tricking them for, I don't know, thousands of years up until this point.
Yep, Morgoth. the famed throat stepper.
Yep, he steps on throats. Oh man, I gotta come up with a shoe company that its entire marketing campaign is Morgoth wearing them while he steps on elves' throats. And so the elves are like, okay, we're gonna send a few people with you just to test the waters, and one of them is Finwë, and Finwë has a son named Fëanor, which again is really needless. This whole history here, but you're better for it, Ben.
Yeah, yeah.
And Fëanor creates the Cimmerels, which are these 3 jewels that they have the essence of those trees from the Undying Land. So they have like really cool light and powers and magic, or what kind of whatever. And then Morgoth comes and destroys the trees that light the world, basically.
Oh.
And so there's no more trees, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" It's just darkness everywhere. And Fëanor's like, "Oh, I got the Cimmerels, man. Like, the Cimmerels light up." And Morgoth is like, "F you, bitch. I'm taking those too." So he takes the 3 Cimmerels and he puts them in his crown, and then he goes off to his fortress in Angband or whatever. And he sits in his throne deep in the earth with these jewels in his crown. And the elves are like, "We are not going to rest until we get those jewels back." And so, like, the whole first age is the elves warring with Morgoth over these stupid little pearls that Fëanor created. So I gotta put him, as far as fame, I think, in the elvish world, he's got to be up there in the top 5, because elves have died, hordes of them have died just for these precious little items. Some of the elves go crazy; they want them so bad. The Valinor are like, whatever, we could create something new, but you guys fight your wars, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think somebody goes right up to Morgoth and like stabs him with a knife and like pops one of them out of his crown. And but then eventually all 3 of them, one goes into the earth, one goes into the sky, and one goes into the ocean. So they're separated now. We don't know where they are.
Right.
For a while, I thought the Cimmerels were the thing that Saruman was using to communicate with Sauron, like the big ball that he uses to communicate across great distances.
Communicate with Saruman?
Sauron, yeah, and Saruman communicate using these big, like marbles. You remember that in the movie? Those aren't the Cimmerels. I thought those were the Cimmerels, but they're not.
Yep. All right.
In case you were wondering.
Yep.
So Fëanor, number 4. Take it or leave it.
Yep.
Ben, I'm not even going to talk anymore about this bullshit. Number 3.
I'll take it to the house. My number 3, Beleg, or Beleg.
Beleg.
Not really sure. A master of the bow, axe, sword, and spear. Considerable magical skills with weapons.
Nice.
His bow, called the Belthronding, which, if I would have known about this, might have made my top 5 Tolkien weapons and tools, if you go back and listen to that episode. Made of black yew and strung with bear sinew. And can only be
bear sinew.
Yeah. Can only be drawn by Beleg's might and magic. So he's the only one, sort of like an Odysseus kind of bow. If you'll remember from mythology, how Penelope is the suitors come and try to win Penelope's hand, and Odysseus shows up as an old man, and basically he's the only one able to string his own bow and fire an arrow through a bunch of rings. He ends
up killing all those guys, right?
Oh yeah, he
wipes out the whole population of men.
Telemachus and the father and son just go to town. But yeah, and also freaking Beleg not only wields this Belthronding, this awesome bow, he also wields a sentient magic sword called Anglicel, and apparently he sharpens it by singing at it, which is really interesting. I'm not sure that I've ever heard about that being done, but his voice, he is an elf after all, so I don't know what the properties of elf song is, but apparently sharpening blades is one of those properties.
Oh shit, you talking about Anglicel, the sword that talks?
I am, yeah.
Guess what, my brother?
What's that?
Your boy Beleg is a good friend of Turin, son of Hurin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Who of course slays the first dragon. I can't remember his name right now.
Not Smog.
And Anglicel is a weapon that eventually is reforged into Gurthang.
Yep.
Boom.
That up, which I think is one of your... Oh, you've talked about Gurthang before.
Which brings me to my number 3, and we're just going to meld these discussions together.
Do it.
Anglishell was forged by the elf Eol. Eol? He's a dark elf, and he's a master. What are they called? Not a. That's like a smithy, yeah, like a forger. But what's the word that they use? A great smith. Melee ability. So he took great. He created 2 great black swords made from a meteorite. One of them being Angurel, which is the one he uses, and Anglishell, which is the one that, of course, Beleg uses in his battles, and then eventually Gurthang is forged. So it was interesting that our number 3s overlap in such a way.
Yeah.
Interesting points that you have on Beleg. I know you have a few more that you wanted to point out.
Well, just one really. He basically got him and Turin were tight for a while.
Yeah. So tight.
Morgoth captured Turin.
I think they had a podcast together at one point.
They might have, yeah.
That's
a predecessor to this show. And apparently there was a Shakespearean, if you will, almost like a Shakespearean kind of misunderstanding, a tragic misunderstanding, in which Beleg accidentally cuts Turin with a sword. Turin wakes up, doesn't recognize him, steals the sword from Beleg, and then kills his own friend. And then tragic. That's when he reforges the sword into Gurthang, battling Morgoth for years later. But then Turin himself ends up getting killed with that same sword. So it's
he falls upon it because he finds out that he's been married to his sister, and that
oh man, circle of life
falls upon Gurthang. One of our
like
top 5 blades of Middle Earth, if you want to find that episode.
Yeah. So there's a little bit more info for you, and yeah, I feel like Beleg, he seems like a super badass. The ability to wield a sentient magic sword and rock the bow, axe, sword, and spear. This dude, he knows what's up.
Well, he's been alive for what, 4,000 years? He should be a master of everything.
Yeah.
Eol, the guy who I keep wanting to say Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, but Eol, who forged Anglishell, he's kind of a more. Of course, he's a dark elf, so he's kind of bad. I think he forces an elven woman to marry him, and she escapes. Like, she runs away from him. He's so bad, and he has a son, and they don't get along either. So Eol, he's in my top 5 at number 3, of course, because he's a loner. He doesn't get along with a lot of people. He's friends with the dwarves, so he's one of those close allies of the dwarves, which I think is kind of cool. But he doesn't like talking to many people. He lives out in the woods by himself. He makes badass swords, and if women aren't going to like him, he's going to make them like him. So he's look, she stayed willingly for a period of time, so he had to have something going for him.
All right, well, you mentioned Dark Elves, Tyler, and I feel like this is a good spot to jump in with a mini 5 here.
Oh, Ben, you're calling up the mini 5. Let's do it.
I am, yeah. Mini 5, a non-Tolkien elves.
Ooh, all right. Let's go. Top 5 non-Tolkien elves. So these are elves that don't appear in the Legendarium.
Yeah, and I only have 3, so you're gonna have to jump in and help me out.
That's okay. Really, I got a total of 5.
There are too many other ones out there, so we may have a little bit of crossover here. But my 3, we'll just go with that. The number 3 is Malekith, the dark elf from Thor: The Dark World.
Oh, good one. Good call.
God awful character, and really one of the worst Marvel villains of all of the Marvel movies so far. And the only reason that he shows up on this list is because he is an elf that is not created by Tolkien. So he's basically. He makes it by name and race only. And then the
birthday,
other two,
by the way, to our good friend Stan Lee.
Yeah,
good friend Stan Lee. Not a good friend and confidant, of course. I've never met the man.
Yep.
But I hope to, if he lives long enough. But happy 92nd birthday. This is, of course, December 2014. Yep. So, yeah, if you want to go celebrate something that Stan Lee created, top 5 worst Spider-Man villains, if you want to go find that episode.
Oh, man. That's
Great
a
episode. Great episode.
Yep.
Ben, number 4 or whatever, number 2.
Yeah, and I guess number 2 will be Hermie from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Okay. Oh, nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, that one's legitimate. I
Right.
am quite fond of him. And my number 1 choice, Bernard from the Santa Claus.
Nice. I thought about adding the little girl, but I thought it was weird.
Judy, yeah.
Because when the Santa Claus came out, I was 8 and had a little crush on her. But maybe she's grown up. Unless she's really an elf, then she didn't.
I think I watched the Santa Claus earlier this year, and then IMDb'd Judy the Elf.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I don't think she's
As most 28-year-olds do.
29, you son of a bitch. No, I don't think she's really been in anything else. Let me check that real quick. Her name is Paige Tamida, or Tamida. Last thing she was in was an episode of Ally McBeal in 1999.
Wow.
She also, though, was in an episode of Seinfeld.
Okay.
So,
Hey,
there you go.
Paige, if you're listening, send us a letter. We'll try to find you some work.
Come join.
Join the podcast.
Podcast. So
Ben,
I'm sure she's listening. She has a Google alert set up for her name, I'm sure.
I'm not typing her name in the show notes.
Oh, all right. Well,
Unless
she'll
Google
know.
translates our verbal conversation as well. My mini 5 non-Tolkien elves. We're gonna go number 5. Got to go with my boys, the Keeblers.
Oh yeah.
They live in that tree. They cook those cookies, maybe some crackers.
Elf fudge. What?
Number 4, got Snap, Crackle, and you know I got Pop on there. Rice Krispies. Love the chocolate version. Love those Rice Krispie treats.
It's a tie for 4th.
It's a tie for 4th, of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Number 3, got to go with Santa's elves. They make me my toys every year, and I appreciate it. Like my sleds, my rocking horses, all your classic Santa toys.
Yep.
Number 2, I think technically she's an elf, Princess Zelda from the Legend of Zelda series.
Oh yeah.
She's got the pointy ears, so
I'll allow it.
she's magic in some form. And then, of course, number 1, I had to put him in a tie, but I'm leaning more towards the Bob Newhart elf, as well as Buddy the elf from the movie Elf.
Nice.
But if I had to pick my poison, whatever, who am I going to hang out with? Probably not Buddy. He's kind of high maintenance, very crazy. Bob Newhart, he sits back. He's married.
Papa Elf.
He's married to that girl from Newhart. He can tell me about his days of his owning an inn in Vermont. He was married to the girl in Newhart, and also the Bob Newhart show. I'm assuming Bob Newhart has transformed into an elf.
Into Papa Elf.
Yeah, and he's Papa Elf, immortal. He's gonna live forever. Shout out to Bob. He's on Twitter. Ben, do you follow him?
I don't, because...
All right. Are you gonna follow him now because he's my number 1? Okay.
No, I'm not.
That's harsh words coming from Ben Pearson, Bob.
Yes.
That's another riveting installment of a Mini 5. Ben,
All right.
we are at the number 2 spot for our top 5 favorite Tolkien elves. These appear
We
in
are-
the Legendarium. Ben, number 2.
So close to the end of Tolkien month, I can taste it.
Oh, the sea breeze reminds me of what life was like before Tolkien month came along.
Yes.
I
Number
wish
2.
it so.
Let's get this bullshit over with. Elrond, number 2.
Ooh, nice. Good call. Good call.
Throwing it out there.
Rivendell.
5,000 days of Elrond we've talked about.
Forgot
last
about
week,
that.
I think. And
Was it last
basically,
week?
I think it might have been, or the last episode anyway.
I can't really remember. I was being tortured at the time.
I know.
It's hard to remember things when you've...
But
Got
yeah, you got
everything up your
Hugo
ass.
Weaving depicting the character or portraying the character in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You got a weird ass looking dude in the Ralph Bakshi version, the animated version, who looks
find it.
nothing like Hugo Weaving.
Well, I mean, I don't think Peter Jackson was basing his actors and actress picks off of just Bakshi.
That's probably true.
Maybe he was basing it off of, a video game from 1981 where
That is, yeah.
you walk around and you're the Hobbit or something.
That could happen, yeah. Although he would probably look more like just a single digital pixel or something. If
Yeah.
that was the case. But anyway, Elrond, we've talked a lot about him over the past month. The dude was over 6,000 years old. So,
Wow! I was just about to see how old he was.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's a baller, a shot caller in Middle Earth, and
Shot collar, pop collar,
Yes,
Elrond from Rivendell.
look him up.
Ain't no give
Yeah.
a hell.
You know his name. So.
Do you think he raps, Ben? I just
I'm
laid
sure
down a
that-
few. I just laid down some pipe on those rhymes just now.
Down.
So I'm wondering, like, are the elves into things that we're into, but they're just way ahead of their time? Like they were rapping hardcore back in the second and third ages before man figured out how to do it.
It is possible. It is possible. Run ELF. An early,
That's awesome.
early band. Yeah.
Really wish I would have come up with that.
Early group.
Nice job, Ben. I applaud you. Yeah, but I mean, after living for 6,000 years, I mean, humans have only been around for what, 3,000? I don't know how the world works.
I don't even.
And we eventually, after 4,000 or 5,000 years, developed rap. I'm sure Elrond, after 6,000 years, plus thousands of years of elvish history before him, they had to have come up with rap at some point.
Yeah, I mean, rap's only really been around for the past like 30 years or something like
In
that.
some
Maybe
form, yeah.
40 tops if you want to go back to like the earliest incarnations of it, probably. And yeah, you're talking about 40 years versus 6,000. I would like to think that Elrond would be able to come up with some sweet flows.
You heard it here first, folks. Elrond, a huge, just street rapper, just straight out of
Rivendell.
Straight out of Celebran. All right. Nice. My number 2, we've mentioned it before. He had the great blade, Rigel, maybe? Ringel, there it is, Ringel. His name is Fingolfin, another son of Finwë, one of those great first elves that came over with, Elwë, John Elwë, and who's the other one? Ingwe, I think. So Fingolfin, he has the balls, just huge, bigger than the Cimmerils, just 2 huge clackers, goes up to Angband and is like, Morgoth, get your ass out here. And Morgoth, he's got like 2,400 floors of caves that he has to walk up. I shit you not. Morgoth has he's got the Balrogs floating around up there. He's got dragons. He's got orcs. He's got all kinds of dark creatures. And Fingolfin holds off that horde, waits for Morgoth to crawl up out of his grave, and he's like, "I'm gonna fight you, bitch." And so they battle for what I'll say a year. Let's say a year. It's always just an epic amount of time. And Fingolfin just stabs him once, stabs him twice, 7 times. This man penetrates the skin of Morgoth with his sword, Ringel. Morgoth does not die. What does he do, Ben?
He steps on his throat.
He steps on Fingolfin's throat, crushes him. The man is dying. With his last breath, he almost mortally wounds Morgoth in the foot, and Morgoth limps the rest of his days. And
I think we established that he limps because the blade is still
I think that's where Ringel is. Yeah, it's
lodged in his foot.
It's like a lion with a thorn in his paw. But that isn't the end of Fingolfin. Thorondor, the leader of the Eagles, is like, this isn't happening to my brother here. Swoops down, claws Morgoth's face, of course, grabs Fingolfin's dead body, takes him somewhere in Elven kingdoms, and there's a whole little mound dedicated, like a burial ground dedicated to the mighty Fingolfin.
All right.
Every time, it makes me want to hit the links every time I say his name, Fingolfin. Instead of Bingolfin on a license plate, I'm going to put Fingolfin and see if people pick up on it. That's my number 2. He's a huge hero in the Silmarillion. If you haven't checked this out, I wish there was a... Did I mention this as a Tolkien movie that could be made? Because if not, it's my number 6.
Okay.
Fingolfin versus Morgoth, the epic battle that ended... didn't end in age. But it definitely...
Should have.
Definitely should have, yes. Ben, we're there. I see the boat in the distance. Let's hurry up through this number 1.
The ship is coming in, and I think everybody's probably saw this one coming. It's Legolas, number 1.
Wow, good call. Not really. I don't really like him.
Really?
Did you say you didn't like him last episode when we were being tortured?
I did say that.
Maybe you were in a bad mood. You were being tortured.
No, I did say that, and I stand by it. But he's still my number 1 elf, just because the other ones, I feel like they've got their legends. They're great works and the rings of power and such that they've created and all that kind of stuff. Legolas, while I don't particularly like his personality, the dude has been through some shit, and he has he's emerged victorious, and you got to say something about that. You got to give him the props, the dap.
The one reason I would add him to number one is he skateboard surfs down that elephant's trunk.
Yes. Oh. Yeah.
Shooting orcs or whatever he's doing, and
Yeah.
I mean he knows he's a total badass, but and he shows it, but you can't argue that he's sometimes a total badass.
And the thing about it is he shows it, but he delivers too. It's not like he's showboating and then he the equivalent of like airballs it or something. He nails it every time. So it's like, yeah, he's just that good.
Yeah, he's the Muhammad Ali of Middle Earth.
Is he a prick? Yes. Do I hate him? Yes. But he's still the number one elf.
Did he get LASIK vision between Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit? Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that's just the way that they made his eyes look was their way of trying to age down the character, I think.
It didn't work.
And no, it didn't work at all.
He still looks older.
It looks really strange.
But I understand that he's older because I know the difference between fantasy and reality, Peter Jackson. So you could have just left him look the same. I wouldn't have questioned it.
Yeah, but there's some purists out there.
Yeah, there's some
who
Joker
who are trying to say that he should have created a time machine and aged Orlando Bloom backwards if he really wanted to make that movie right.
And there's some hipster in a circle somewhere smoking, whatever those cloves are. And he's like, Legolas looks older in The Hobbit, but it's go slap that guy in the face. Also, Peter Jackson's developed a time machine, Ben, and he's using it to get a younger Orlando Bloom.
I know.
Come on.
That's what those purists would say. I'm right
if
there
anything, he should go back and get a younger Michael J. Fox so we can make another Back to the Future.
Interesting.
Yeah, because then the whole time travel thing makes sense.
Interesting. All right, well, what's your number one?
My number one, we haven't talked about her yet, and I said we would.
Oh, I forgot.
Galadriel. The Lady of Lothlorien, who is married to, of course, Celeborn.
Yep.
Who doesn't do jack shit.
He doesn't.
Galadriel runs this house. She is, and I like her because not only is she hot, she walks barefoot too. That is a turn on.
Yeah. Disgusting.
Yeah, she's clean all the time. She's an elf.
Put some slippers on or something.
She's one of the few elves that was alive when they first arrived at the Undying Lands. She might be one of the first elves ever. I think she might be clocking in at 16,000 years. I'm not sure.
16,000 years old. Holy
I mean,
cow.
she's still alive. Like that's the thing. Like we don't know. Maybe she's even older than that. She's also known as the Lady of Lorien, the Lady of the Galadrim, the Lady of the Wood, and of course the Lady of the Light. Maybe because she was around during those eras of the trees, when the trees were still around, before they were, assundered by Sir Morgoth.
Yep.
She is horribly written in the new Hobbit trilogy. I don't know what they did wrong there. I mean, Galadriel could have easily just been some kind of sage, but instead she's like battling the Nazgul for some reason.
Yeah.
So thumbs down there. But in the Lord of the Rings proper trilogy, she is awesome. She gives them shelter. She gives the Fellowship shelter when they're still together. She also goes with Frodo on the boat, much like we're about to do. She also has one of the Rings of Power. I don't know if she has a sword, although if she did, it would be in my top 5 blades of Middle Earth. She's good friends with Gandalf. They almost make out at one point, which, again, poorly written, whoever did that.
Terrible.
So Gandalf's banging Galadriel? Yeah, I would too, but you don't have to write that in. That's someone's fan fiction.
Yeah, totally unnecessary.
Maybe they have kids. Maybe that's what the guy is trying. Maybe in the extended editions, maybe Celeborn is so angry and silent because she tripped the light fantastic with Gandalf.
Wow.
It makes sense because she's the Lady of Light.
Yeah, could be.
Of course she would trip the Knight Fantastic. She was a niece of Fëanor, who, of course, forged the Silmarils. She, one of the greatest of the Eldar in Middle-earth, surpassed nearly all others in beauty. Of course, Gimli can tell you that, Ben. And so she ended her life in Middle Earth almost at the end of the Third Age, I guess, maybe the beginning of the Fourth Age. She went over with all those ring bearers. Thoughts on Galadriel, Ben? I'm sensing you don't care for her.
No, not really. I mean, she's got that scream banshee mode that she goes into that really freaked me out when I saw
super powerful.
The first movie. The movie.
Wasn't that part of the movie great though?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of it. I feel like she's like really overstepping her bounds, and
he offers her the ring though. What is she supposed to do?
I don't know. She's freaky as shit.
It's a visual representation of the internal struggle that she's having with herself, because she wants, just like Gandalf, she wants to use the good or the One Ring for good.
I mean, I get it,
but then she also knows that isn't possible.
Why you gotta be a banshee about it?
And then, of course, the famous line is, "I've passed the test. I am able to pass into the West," or whatever, however that goes. It's just and then she waits like what, 50 years before she does it.
Maybe more. Who knows?
Which is like a day and a half to this bitch.
Yep.
I just like her because she's really old and also very wise, and also probably, again, hot. But again, as I was reading about elven marriages, they do not seek adulterers. When they marry forever.
Yeah, so
one of the
my
few.
Boy is probably pretty pissed off about
Celeborn, I gotta give. You know what? Celeborn should be in my top 5 because he locked that down.
Yeah, he did.
He's like, I don't care if I'm not powerful. I don't care if I'm not a great warrior. As long as I lock down Galadriel.
He's basically like the first husband.
I get all the kingdoms of the elves. I get the heart of elvendom on Middle Earth. I get to sit here with some kind of animal's antlers in my crown.
Presumably.
He's got it made, man.
Allegedly.
Ben, it's here.
It is.
The great white wooden ship that is going to take us probably not to the Undying Lands, because I don't want to do another month just talking about top 5 Valars or whatever.
Hell no.
So we're gonna
Get
cross.
It? Hell no.
That's pretty good. I like it. As Jimmy Pardo would say, that's a good piece of business. And we're gonna take the ship across the Great Sea, Ben. But until then, before we reach the New World, and by the New World we mean, of course, our world.
Yep.
How would listeners to the Fivecast, I know there's a few by now, how would they reach you on the internet?
Well, you can find me at Ben Pears on Twitter. And starting on Thursday, which this coming Thursday is January 1st, 2015, I will be writing at geektyrant.com.
Whoa, that is big news, buddy.
Going and hanging out with our old buddies at Geek Tyrant. So I'm excited about that. You can find some of my stuff there. Or you can find all of my old stuff there.
Yeah, you can find a lot of old stuff there.
I'm sure it's still living on their server somewhere, but way back in the archives. But then, I'll be putting out some new stuff there starting on Thursday. So check it out.
Nice. Of course, you can find the Fivecast on Twitter as well, at the Fivecast. You can send us an email, fivecastpodcast@gmail.com. I've gotten a couple of requests for some top 5 lists, and by that I mean one.
Oh. That's good.
So we might be doing those in the near future if you got some. Tolkien month's over, folks, okay?
No more Tolkien stuff.
Request away. And if you want to connect with us on Tumblr, you're more than welcome to do that. I don't know why I have a Tumblr. Nobody ever connects with me there. But it's there in case you want to stream those episodes. You can find stuff on Reddit about us. I've been in the Tolkien fans subreddit, Ben.
Okay.
Those people have been great, actually. I don't advertise the podcast because that can get you ghost banned apparently on Reddit if you post links. Which again, Reddit, how am I supposed to share with the community something interesting if I can't post a link? You dumb box. But
you gotta post that. Post it anyway.
In the Tolkien fans subreddit, I posted almost every week. What are your top 5 weapons? What are your top 5 creatures? What are your top 5 movies that should be made? Huge responses. Nice. I'm kind of afraid to read off some answers because I don't know if they've given me their consent. But if you would like to know, send us an email. You can also subscribe to us through iTunes. We're not on iTunes, but if you visit our RSS feed, feeds.feedburner.com/Fivecast, you'll be able to subscribe to iTunes that way.
And hopefully we'll have that straightened out here in the next
Yeah. And if you have any problems, just send me a direct message on Twitter at the Fivecast, and I'll be more than happy to send you links and instructions or whatever. just to keep you on board with the 5 cast. Ben, I'm getting seasick already, but it's good to feel the chains of Middle Earth leaving me.
Yes.
I love this place. We might return here someday, but for now, take 5, Ben, and we'll see you in the real world.
All right, take 5.
Bye. Yeah!
Bam.
Token Mud finished.
Done.
No one listens to this. So, yeah, if you're on vacation, you're on holiday, as the Brits call it.
Yeah, I think Gandalf says it's the value of it is greater than the value of the entire Shire and everything in it.
Wow. I also like that they're separate from trees. So there's the trees, and then there's the Ents.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
So
kind of
not every tree is an Ent.
But yes, but every Ent is a tree,
Yes.
or looks like a tree.
Yeah. Yeah, my number 4 is a movie about Elrond.
Okay.
And it's
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, it's an indie movie about him
Okay.
that, in the vein of 500 Days of Summer, skips through random days in his life, but it skips over a time span of 1,000 years.
Okay.
So it's just sort of, you see lovers of his that just die within,
no.
years, and it bounces all over the place. It's a really it's a wide spanning tale, decades and hundreds of years, but it also sort of gives you a good look at how Elrond stays the same, how he changes during that time. It's a real character study, and it
Sounds boring.
yeah, it's super boring, definitely boring.